what happens. We'll see what happens.
Sometimes I wonder why I spend lonely nights dreaming of a song and the melody haunts my room. And I once again with you. When our love was new, and each kiss
a revelation.
The man was long ago, and now my consolation is in the stardust of a song. And beside me, the stars are bright, and you are in my arms. Nightingale, tell this fairy tale of paradise where roses grow. Though I dream in vain.
Lord, will always
There always
will remain
my stardust melody,
the memory of loving. Oh, Willie. No, Keith, I remember, Keith, when I was a kid, I would sit and listen to music. And then I grew up and thought other things were important, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if there's a call at 3:30. Stardust, exactly. One of you guys can tell me, and we'll get on in 2 minutes. But I want to point a couple things out to you, unless there's a call. Please let me know if there's a call. Hey, Keith. Yeah. I happen to agree with you. I think GTII needs to do something, and they have been. I mean, so my implication isn't that they haven't been doing anything. It's just things are out of their control. But I happen to agree with you. I think the necessity is for a event to change the calculus that the shorts are looking at, because this is all fraudulent trading. And anyway, the two things, it's 3:29. I want to call to your attention. GoLogic is trading at 248. It has no volume, $1.28. And I'm not saying put your gasoline money into it, but I believe, based on the calls we've shared with the CEO and based on the simple arithmetic. Somebody just said I'm not coming on today. Am I on? I don't know. Somebody just texted me, am I not coming on today? I'm sorry I was late. It's just I had a board meeting I had to be on that ran late. It was a Zoom call. So anyway, Go Logic, it's very simple arithmetic. 900,000 shares to maybe a million are closely held, but call it 900,000. 1.1 million shares in the float. So of the float, only 100 to 200,000 shares are there. The the S4, which was going to precipitate a flood of shares like the ones I own, coming off their year-long restriction, was pulled. So there is no supply. And the company is, and shareholders close to the company are working to I think, really put the screws to the criminals here. Small numbers. But if you have the last number I heard, and you can see it. I can't tell you right now where to see it, but someone gave it to me from some website, and I'll have to get that to you. But it's like 352,000 shares have been naked shorted in GoLogic, and there's only 100 or so available, maybe. I don't think any of those people are going to sell at low numbers. So when they come in to buy back in, if they do, I think that stock is going to run. Now, will it run to massive high numbers? I don't know. But you wouldn't need it. You wouldn't need much of a buying spree to get it up 10 times maybe, or 5 times, or 20 times. Or maybe if we're lucky, higher. So that's GoLogic, trading at 253 right now, 228 to 248, 900 by 829. The other one that I think showed us where it wants to go, and I have one caution on it, but it's 218 to 221 is finger. The criminals at the Lind Partners, New York City, they're just keeping their foot on this. Can they keep it down? That's the question. The revenues are strong. The company is fighting back. I think the stock should be, well, metrics have changed over the last sort of 2 or 3 quarters. But if we were still back in the stock market world of last year, I think this should be a $30 stock regardless of a short squeeze. Why? Because of the revenue generation, because of the massive upside on their various, it's basically now a 4-stool revenue stream company. Very well run. So 218 to 221, they're somehow keeping it down. If the Lind Partners gets in trouble, which is my prediction, this stock has been 8, 9, 10 as recently as 4 months ago. You can look it up on the chart, whatever it is. And it ran to 15 about 18 months ago, maybe it was 2 years. You can look it up on the chart. From, I don't know, I think it was 40 cents, and it ran to 15. I think this time when it runs, if it does, the Lind Partners have shorted 125 million shares that do not exist versus a float. Now, whatever it says on Yahoo, you can look at. Let me show what it says here. It shows shares outstanding 50 million. But the actual float on this stock is very, very small. The float that's real, that's in the market on finger motion, is probably 3 to 5 million at the most. So if a buy-in comes, the heat will be on there. Now the caution. So Rebecca just said. Let me just finish. The caution I have on Finger is it is NASDAQ, and there's one of you that's been very gracious trying to educate me. They have puts and calls. Maybe the Lin Partners has some way of magically creating stock out of thin air using puts and calls in size. Now, I understand how you can create a synthetic share with puts and calls. But the open interest is not large enough to explain the volume. They have criminally sold 125 million shares. And just because Gary Gensler doesn't enforce it doesn't mean it's not criminal. So anyway, that's the only caution. But this stock showed you yesterday where it wanted to go by after hours, going to 277. My prediction, I could be wrong, but I think GoLogic and Finger, GOLQ and FNGR, both together could be the next TOP. It could be the next WTOP. It could be the next Chinese stock that moves. Maybe it's just one of them. But anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Jenny Rebecca just sent that GoLogic had 100 shares to borrow yet this morning. Now there's one. So there's, it's hard to borrow. That's one of the signs of a short in trouble. Now let's go to the one that let me see. I forget. I think his name was Jack. He just sent me a YouTube message saying I'm not coming on today. GTII's down. So I just got it maybe 5 minutes ago, and I hope this is going out live because I am on. But let's get the quote on GTII. It is down a penny. It's at 131, down a penny, 131 to 133, 584,000. It was as low as 123 and as high as 135. So, Jack, I'm on. I don't see it as being down very much right now, but I see what you're talking about. It was down to 123. It continues to be all fraud. It's the Kramers. It's probably not the Kramers. It's probably criminals associated with the Kramers. But the Kramers are going to go down unless they fly to Tel Aviv or one of the other non-extradition countries in the world. They're going to go down. And all right, let's go on Ham's call. I'm just going to listen.
Just when you think this is going to break, all of a sudden the stock turns and runs back up. Well, I use that technique because I used to get orders to cover millions of shares of stock.
Thank you, Matt.
I didn't use that back and forth nonsense. What we would do is you run in, you buy 500,000 shares, you drive it up 60 cents, and you walk away like you're done. And then all the people.
He's still talking. It's
the current going in and out. That's the technique and how they try to cover. All right, so they try to get people who want to bail out, and they come in and suck you out. That's what happens. And that's why I always tell you to put a good till cancel on. If you want to get out, throw it out there. Sometimes they see it, and they just run up and scoop it up and walk away. Now, on all the stuff that you see going on, 2 days ago I wrote about Carl Icahn after they attacked him, and I said the same thing. I said Carl Icahn is not going to, let these guys beat him. 2 days later he did a dividend and he squeezed the stock up $8 again. I'm sure Carl Icahn's not done with them. He killed the guys in Herbalife, the guy from Pershing Square. He murdered that guy, squeezing him. Now they're doing it to his own company. He's not going to have any mercy on him. Carl Icahn's got very powerful friends on the long side, and if they're short this stock, he's going to kill him. Again, what started the stock to go back up? You paid out a special dividend. So that's the way you got to give it to them. Obviously, all the poor companies, we can't give out money like Carl Icahn did, but there's ways to trap them. But again, the mentality is Carl Icahn's one of the richest guys in the world. He used a special dividend, and within 2 days, he got it out. Okay? So obviously, you know that's the way to do it. Special dividend. So again, I'm talking about MULN. He reversed the stock. The shorts got their position cut down by 25%. They opened it up higher. They just re-shorted it. So at 5 cents, they did it at $1.50. You did them a favor. That's why the reverse doesn't work. When you open it back up higher, the shorts just get a chance to sell more at a higher price. So that isn't the proper way to do it. Everyone thinks it works. I posted a bunch of companies that that I've been following. Lynn Partners, these guys out of New York City, these toxic lenders. I put up a stock that I found, SYTA, Stan Yellow Tom Apple, I believe it is, a mobile company. It was $10. They lent them money. The stock is 11 cents. 11 cents. Now they're doing it to HUBC, Harry Uncle Boy Charlie. I put it up and try to tell people, stay away. They're just going to destroy it down to pennies. I think it's 62 cents, 63 cents. I say the same thing in BRAG. I don't even know how the no one's attacking that one yet. They lend the companies money, and every stock that they lend the money to winds up at pennies, yet they're rich. How the hell does that happen? Okay? Warren Buffett could survive. Every investment they make goes to zero, right? Because there's got to be a way to get their money out, and that is the proof, and I'm trying to show you how it's done. I put up ZYXI. I know someone that knows the CEO. He's been owning the stock. The stock was 16. The company wanted to raise money. I think it was through RBC or UBS. I'm not sure. The stock was 16. They raised the money at $9, down 7 points. So these guys all shorted it, and they bought it back on the secondary. And that's with RBC or UBS. Those are the biggest players in the world, and they all do the same thing. They use naked shorts in very different ways to do it against convertibles or preferreds or options. It's a very complex game, but you have to start paying attention to it. It's a minefield out here. If you don't know what you're doing, they're going to clean your clock.
They call me Deacon Blue.
GTII was making a new high at 16. It's now 9. And they raised $50 million. How is raising money a negative? I met with CELU. I went to their office. They're scientists. They were getting destroyed. They make medicine for diseases and cancer and all kinds of stuff. I told him, don't take the money. He had to take the money. The stock is destroyed. He's 50 cents. The only thing he has now he has the letter from NASDAQ saying if they don't make $1, get it back over $1, they're going to be delisted from the NASDAQ. That's the second part of the crime. The NASDAQ helps the short sellers because the company has to release that news they're going to be delisted if they don't get it back over $1. How do you get it back over $1? Right? They have to get someone to buy the stock, or they're going to have to reverse it.
Chris Knight, I agree with you.
But they do reverse it over $1. CELU, they're going to do the same thing.
I was early last week, but I think, Chris, you're absolutely right.
They just so every one of those shareholders is going to get screwed also. And if I went into the company and just met them, I would be investing in them. That's how great the company is. The offices, the scientists. I would have felt free to imagine putting all my money into it and get wiped out in a year. On good news. So you got to be careful. I just told Busy Brands that you guys should put the truck out there, work together, get the truck out there. I think the best place to put it is in front of the SEC. Add some powerful slides on there about the SEC. The Reuters news about the SEC. They're going to clamp down on this illegal practice, manipulation of short sellers. They killed the banking system. think about how many billions were lost. Not millions, billions. At Silicon Bank went from 500 to zero. The damage, people got destroyed, people owning these stocks. Some of your pension funds own those stocks. All right, so if your pension fund was up 12% for the year, I guarantee it's down on the year now. All right, not everybody just owns the Apple computer and Goldman Sachs. All right, so people, they spread it all over the place. It's your money, it's the military, the police, the nurses, they rob from everyone. And this is how they rob it in different ways. So they killed the banks, we told everybody about naked short selling, and still they haven't shut anything down yet. All right, so I believe MMTLP is going to change the game, and it's going to happen in 2 weeks.
I agree with him on that. I happen to agree.
So it's coming to a head.
I agree with him.
Hang in there, keep your head up, keep fighting. Everyone should focus. I know you guys all get on these calls and you help each other out, and I got it. Someone should take control of this community and say, tomorrow we're going to call Yvonne Usler at the NASDAQ. She's the head of naked shorting, and rip her a new asshole. Send her emails, put it on Twitter, put her name, her number, and let her know what a complete disgrace she is. And on Tuesday, go to somebody else, a politician. If you guys have 65,000 people, and everybody does it in one day, and overwhelm one person at a time, and just keep moving to the Senate.
Ryan, I think settlement, but he thinks trade.
Torture them. They're torturing you.
He's calling in on Busy Brand's phone.
I just got that off my head. If there's any questions, feel free. I'm just driving.
I have a question, Ham. Have you ever heard of an attempt to make an arrangement between the company and the shareholders to cede a portion of shares back to the company so that the company can pay out a dividend?
That's a good idea. I have people that are consultants to companies that reach out to me. That's how I'm doing it. But that's a good idea. There's many different ways. That's a good idea. I have an idea that I'm giving out a warrant. Throw it out there, because when the stock goes up, the company gets funded. The shorts can't deliver it, and you expose them that way. And everyone's helping the company out. For example, GTII had a warrant at $2.75. Everyone made fun of it, but it was 75 cents. The stock went to 10, and the company made billions of dollars. And
sorry for the noise.
Because the shareholders funding the company versus toxic debt guy. So we removed Wall Street from the
same
equation.
crap, different day.
Exactly.
I just showed you a bunch of companies that went to Wall Street and they were all destroyed, and they all got $10 million, whatever. Meanwhile, they all got stock and warrants on top of them, and they'll never go anywhere. But that's an interesting idea. I'll run it past a couple of attorneys. Thank you.
Well, if you or anybody else wants to throw around the idea of ceding shares
Yes, he
back
did.
to the company,
In his
doing a
opinion.
dividend, I'd love to talk to
The
somebody
main
about
reason,
that,
Dips,
because,
is
that's
they don't want discovery. They don't want discovery, so they're going to hustle to get something resolved
They changed the rules,
before
right?
the judge.
GTI had them dead when they were going to issue the crypto coin as a special dividend.
right.
They were going to make everyone open a wallet, and they were going to put your coins in your wallet. Shareholders of record. The SEC shut it down. The SEC, FINRA, you can't do it. Excuse me, that was the DTC who shut it down. Because they know there's certain tricks that expose them. So we have to run it past an SEC attorney before you do anything like that. But I'll get Busy Brands to get back to you and let you know what they say.
All right. Thank you so much. Major respect, Ham. I've really appreciated, reading
Listen,
your
keep
tweets.
educating. Listen, you guys are getting smarter than me. Keep digging. I can't take any more of it. I mean, your ideas, there's a couple hundred people here. Keep digging. We'll find the right way. Maybe someone did something, 10 years ago to do this. Somebody's done something to break them. All right, there's a trick always somewhere. Remember, we need to buy stock. We need money to buy stocks. And they know that we run out of money. That's why they keep flooding with counterfeits. So we have to figure out a way to expose them. Obviously, dividends, when you stop the music, the record date, they have to be able to deliver it. So we're trying to create something that will expose them. Every time we have something that can expose them, we have to deal with the SEC, FINRA, and the DTC on our backs then. Because they know it's a game of chess, just a matter of time before we get it through.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yep. Let's go to Danielle. You have the mic.
I also agree with that, Ryan.
I apologize if this has been asked and answered because I just got into the room a few minutes ago. But with GTII, the restricted shares, I called TD Ameritrade, and I've been told by TD Ameritrade that the shares are unregistered and cannot be registered to me in any way. I can't have them mailed to my house, and I can't have them sent to the transfer agent.
Maybe they're telling
Does
the
that
truth
seem
about
accurate to you?
their firm.
No, because the company has to get that all approved by the SEC, and they have to file it. I think it's I forget the form.
S4.
Or some sort of filing. But I'll get the clarity on that, and I'll get back to you.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
The company just can't say we have a dividend that's an unregistered security, and good luck. They have to register these things because you have 6 months to have it registered, right?
Okay.
The Kunj, I think they're going to make a settlement or gray market or a combo. But a lot of people think they're going to open it up for 2 days trading.
I can't answer that question.
Okay, I did try. Liberty stock
it's a flip of the coin at this point as far as I'm concerned.
It just goes to voicemail, so.
I agree with Ryan.
About the transfer agent. Someone spoke to some guy named Brian.
They don't want it to be out of control.
I can't see it while driving. He said something about that. He spoke to the transfer agent, and he got clarity on it. And I don't think they actually have the shares yet. I think it's supposed to be this week.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep listening for it.
Interesting.
I'm gonna reach out to my friend and see if the company did file it. Obviously, they have to do something with the SEC. It's just, because if you sell one share but unregistered security as a company, you go to jail. Then they can just sell unregistered
Paulie, it
securities
depends
every
on
day.
the rule book they
get,
create for it.
They get to become a hedge fund and buy a private
Yes,
jet.
if the 2 days had happened back in December.
Okay.
I'm not sure what rules they're going to.
Mike, he might want to have a question for you.
Hi, so I don't have a question. I actually have to make an announcement for everyone to know. I put a post out in the Nest. It is very important that we do not send any difficult or challenging messages to members of Congress while we have open channels of communication
That's a good
and
point.
active pending judgments.
Be polite.
Okay, so
Be
I just want to
polite.
put the message out there. People are sending very difficult messages to Congress people, and it's not a smart move. So,
I agree with that.
Please understand, we know that the hardship is real.
I understand where you're coming from. I've been doing this 23 years. We've been knocking on the doors, throwing rocks at them for 23 years. I have no respect for anybody who they don't even care about the banking system. So you can do what you have to do. That's your opinion. I'm not involved in MMTLP. I'm not going to tell you what to say and what to do. Okay, but again, if you're locked
Okay,
out, my
again.
opinion is these people are criminals, all of them, for not defending you. They were elected by you to fight for you, and I don't believe that they can tell FINRA or anybody else in the courtroom what to say or do. But again, that's my opinion. Everyone has a different opinion on that. So,
Okay, so
you guys think that's the way to do it? Don't do it then.
I understand. Trust me. I've been in the fight many years as well. Maybe not as long as you, and I respect that. I only make this statement because what's most important is that these meetings are on the record, right? So as these open channels are active right now, it helps us.
Stoney,
show
he's
that,
calling
that,
in
we have a
on
stand,
Busy
a foot in
Brands'
the
cell
door.
phone.
And even if
So
it doesn't work
it's
out
coming
on a congressional
through
level,
Busy
knowing that the
Brands' cell
court, the
phone
pending judgments
to
are in play, which
the
is more
space call
meaningful,
rather
it
than
doesn't mean that
directly
we
on
shouldn't
the
have the
space call.
advantage
So
on
that's
both
why.
angles, right?
And then
So,
maybe it's my system, Stoney.
I'm just reading someone, again, going back to that GTI thing. It says, I just spoke to Liberty. They just got the breakdown.
Logic
last night
49.
from the DTC. They're going through it today. Brokers probably won't have the shares until the end of next week.
Wow.
So the DTC gives them the breakdown to GTII, and the DTC says Merrill Lynch has 1 million, E-Trade's got 2 million, Ameritrade's got 3 million, and they send over those amounts to the brokerage firms. The brokerage firms then take that number and put it into your account. So if Ameritrade has got 3 million shares at the DTC, the only dividends they're going to get is 10% of that of 300,000, right?
Kevin.
So what happens if
Kevin.
Ameritrade owns 20 million shares and needs 2
Idiots.
million dividends?
It's for
Obviously,
you.
they're going to be putting nothing in your account, and IOU. That's how the whole thing works.
You'll get nothing in your account and you'll like it.
You know, so if you have any questions on that, ask. But again,
This
going
is a
back
date.
to MMTLP, I got it. You know, you don't want to upset anybody. You know, I spoke to Sessions people. I spoke to many of the people in Congress. I showed them all. Making short selling, not just in MMTLP. I showed it to them in United Airlines. I showed it in Force Protection. At the time, they didn't kill Silicon Bank yet, so I didn't have that luxury. I will do it this week, though, and I'll show them the banking. It kills everything. But again, that's what the system is.
Again.
The system, I told you, many people, you know, if you're new to me, I told everyone, this destroys everything. When I watched them kill United Airlines many years ago, I couldn't believe it that they can bring down an airline. No one says anything about it. Disappeared, you know, went bankrupt, comes out of bankruptcy, and starts again. But all the pilots unions, the mechanics, the stewardesses, they lost everything in bankruptcy. And they start over. Just think of the banking crisis, which you just saw. So when you do speak to anyone in Congress, if anyone does, people work at the banks. Their livelihoods, besides
Very
being
good,
an
John
employee,
Horton.
they get stock for working at these companies.
I'll kiss it.
It's all gone.
Now you can
They
say
lost
you saw me
everything.
kiss a date.
Okay, my brother works at a bank, and he's concerned. He just had all his stock that he's in the company was
Yeah,
cut in half.
I hope you don't hear it
It has
chewing nice.
nothing to do with anything. So it's ruining people's lives that you don't even realize. Besides the shareholders getting wiped out, people that work at the bank. Now the banks have to lay people off, close branches, and it just keeps tumbling downhill. The destruction because of the naked short selling. They attack so fast, they create a panic, and that's what you saw, this panic.
We're
And now
rolling
they're saying
downhill
everything's okay.
like a
You have to be
snowball
insane to
headed
own
for
any of
hell.
these bank stocks until the SEC says it's safe and stops the fraud. And I'm sorry, I could just keep going on. Any other questions?
Go ahead, William. You got something for him? William's on here.
I just want to. Sorry, I've been out of touch all day. I've been on a board call, but I just want to say and remind everybody we don't have much time left. But Finger, you need to focus on. I think that could be the next China stock. Also, GTII. I was early last week, but I think the time to buy GTII, if you're inclined to, is now.
Is that
Again, listen, I'm not going to advise anybody to do this. Everything is laid out for you. We showed you the crime. We showed you the criminals. We showed you the proof. Okay? Unlike MMTLP, this stock is still trading. You know, that's the difference. That's the difference between the two. I have a friend that was thinking about putting up a bid for 5 million shares of MMTLP at $1. He wants to buy your stock. We're trying to figure out how he can do it. And he thought about giving everyone a 10 to 20% upside. So if you do sell it to him at $1, and if he does sell it at 10, you would also get another dollar back, 10% or 20% of $2, so you can wind up with 3. Because he's a hedge fund, he's thinking about the people that are trapped. Taking a little bit on the back, what's the matter?
I kind of him. I don't think that's gonna happen.
What's that?
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me, dog.
That's a hard pass for
No,
me.
I'm just telling you that.
I know him.
Trying to think of a way to get people to have no money. What do you do?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I'm not doing it. But people are reading. People are reading. They're not short sellers, these guys, my friends. They're just trying to help out maybe along who's destitute. There's people that are destitute. You have no money to eat. What do? You got to get the money off the table, right? That's what happens a lot.
I'm working the gray market already. I can see. Go ahead, another question.
It hasn't come to the table. I'm just giving you ideas that are bouncing around. That's all.
Well, Ham, you better tell them they've got to increase their offer because we already had other people offer to buy them for $3.
Okay, so I'm just saying, there you go. But listen, I hope you kill it. Believe me, no one wants them dead more than me. I don't care about the money. I want to know who the wizard is behind the scenes. And the first thing everybody should say when you do find out who the wizard is, whether it's whether it's the Citadel or Virtue, whoever it is, the first thing you should be saying after you find out the discrepancy, if you do find out what the number is.
I had 10 dates in one night.
That's the first thing you should be saying.
10 dates in a night.
Let's go with
Remember that. That should be your battle cry. As soon as you find out the discrepancy, why are they in jail?
Let's go, Joe.
I made it to Vegas, Sam. I'm going to get a video for you. I'm going to walk up to the craps table. I'm going to tell them I got no money, but I would like to bet $2,000 on all these numbers, and you're going to get an authentic response. And I'll say, well, that's how naked short selling works, and we'll see what. And I will post it for you.
They let you play for free in Paris. Don't worry. They listen at Monte Carlo. I walk in, they let me bet, and I'll pay you later if I lose.
All right, one more question. Anybody? Oh, no more questions for you, Ham. You done pissed off.
All right, listen. Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right, Ham. Thank you so much, man.
Yes.
I
That
guess
was a quick. That was a quick hell no from everybody.
Well, I was just going to say, people, Ham is not saying that is the true value of your shares. Please do not. He's not suggesting that you sell them for that. So just don't give him any hate.
I had 12 dates in one night.
His friends have to up that offer. We've already had, three? I think I heard someone said $5. So I even heard an offer for $10 a share. So, yeah, they better up their offer.
I don't think it's his. I think it's him.
It might be. Hey,
Let's-
Busy, I don't
let's
want
get-
to interrupt the conversation. So, are we? I sent you DM, JR, and I have
Let's
something I want
get
to chat
some
with the community
prices.
about. Do you guys need to finish up a conversation before we do, or is now a good time?
Where's JR at?
JR's in the chat.
Go Logic is
I do.
250 at
He's,
the close.
JR, can you? Oh, there he goes.
Finger is
JR.
216.
Let me introduce the topic first. So, in our
GTII,
this morning,
130, up
Ron
a
and I
penny.
had a conversation.
No, down 2.
About
I'm
Rose's
confused.
lawsuit. So we happened to check in on the Pacer
It's down
system,
2 at 4
and
o'clock
FINRA did submit
at
a
130.
response to
After,
Rose's
it's up 1
amended,
penny. So I
petition to amend the
can't
complaint,
explain
which was
that.
to include the FOIA documents.
So at 1:30.
And so we had a little conversation about that.
My last
and Rob
date
had
for
kind of
the
indicated
evening.
that it was a pretty robust response, and my reply was, they're afraid of it, blah 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 blah. So, doing the due diligence that I like to do, I got a copy of that of FINRA's response, and I sent it to our resident attorney, Mr. JR. And so we had a conversation about it. We wanted to share that with the community. So, JR, the mic is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Junk. So
I don't know what the point
my
is.
understanding was that there was some conversation that the motion was to keep the FOIA email out of kind of an evidentiary, discovery kind of thing, and that's
See, they
really
don't want
not
discovery.
what the motion is. The motion is it's a motion in opposition to the amended complaint that Rosa had filed a few weeks ago. So after reading it, I can tell you
Everybody
it's
has to
standard
do the
boilerplate stuff. There's
locomotion.
nothing new in it.
So
They make
250
one
on
mention
Go
of the
Logic.
email, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's just a standard
GTII.
opposition motion to the amended
Yeah,
complaint that
I
she
can
asked
drop
the
the
court
line.
to take a look at. I can tell you that if you watched Richard's most recent update, he also talks about receiving 3 different motion. Well, he received a total of 9 different opposition briefs.
I want to see who's talking.
amended his
James is
complaint
talking.
3 times.
Here's where it
And
is.
he's obviously filing
If you
against
guys
3 different
want to
parties,
go
so
listen
that
to
leaves
it,
him a total of 9 opposition briefs that he has to respond to all.
but I just left it so that you and I can share this moment together. Maybe I never told you all those long and lonely times. Maybe I never held you. Now we can be alone together. So I was obviously early on GTII last weekend, but I think the timing of the timing of the timing, I just realized I have to print something out and get a signature back. I guess I can do it after we talk. The timing of everything is still out there. 1-800 law firm has to be completed by next month, not this Monday, next Monday, unless they get another delay. They announce another delay. But as of right now, everything looks like on track to close that deal by the following Monday. The Trento deal is still out there, alive and kicking, from all indications. Does it mean it closes? Can't promise, but I don't see a better time than now for it to close. The dividend, that was interesting what Ham was saying, that the dividend could take the DTC. It might be the DTC, but anyway, same thing. Until next Friday to distribute the shares. So that's really interesting. So that's a ticking time bomb, in my opinion, for the shorts. There's still the 19 million shares out there. So I don't know how they keep it down. I don't know how they're able to continue manipulating the stock price downward. In the sense, I don't know why they're allowed to do this. They're lying. They're hiding tickets. They're marking short tickets long. And they're probably moving money from LLC to LLC and offshore. And the crime continues. But it will come to an end, in my opinion. It's not fun. It's not fun. I agree, and I wish I had waited till this Friday instead of last Friday to tell you that I thought, I could hear the ringing of the bell. So then on Go Logic, I already told you, I think that could be a firecracker as soon as next week. None of what I'm saying is financial advice because I don't know each of your financial situations individually. But we're trying to catch the next lightning in a bottle, whatever that means. I guess that's a firefly. I don't know. Lightning in a bottle. Or maybe Benjamin Franklin caught lightning in a bottle. Or maybe it's white lightning. Shoo! White lightning. Anyway, I think GoLogic has and Finger. I just don't know. This is a situation where Wes Christian's on it. The Lin partners refused to accept payment for their note, and somehow I don't know the exact resolution at the end of the day, but they did resolve that. They had the right to convert into a small amount of shares, very small, and that's it. Yet they keep it. They keep selling it because they're criminals. They're just criminals. And we want to protect these banksters? It goes all the way to the top, and Gary Gensler is just a henchman for the criminals. He does nothing. But anyway, the pressure will get on to Finger and GoLogic. I think one or both of those will become the next Chinese stocks to squeeze. Finger has the most massive upside out there. Why? Because it's 125 million counterfeit shares versus maybe as low as 3 million shares in the legitimately traded float. That's amazing. The negatives are that it's on NASDAQ, so it has these puts and calls, and there seems to be something they can do like a credit default swap. It's not a credit default swap, but some sort of contract like that with another bankster. I don't know how they're doing it, but it'll end. And then GoLogic, I think, could have, top went from 7 to 250, 260 in a day, or 7 to 20, and then 20 to 260. Well, Logic sort of priced at a third of 7, so maybe it goes to 50 or 80. Brent, you don't know Monty Python, do you? I fart in your general direction. Oh, fart in a bottle. I see. That's what you're saying. What do I think, Wolfie? I think it's criminal. It's the first time I know how to use that word in the right sentence. I think today's action in GTII is criminal. However, they tried to drive it down. They got it down to 123, and it reversed. I wish it had reversed on high volume, and I wish it had closed at a high on the day. It didn't, but it's not bad. It's 600,000 shares. I bet 450,000 of it is all market maker masturbation. And some of it will show up as short, but it's not real trading. So this is just criminal activity. And remember, Wolfie, that if these were professional short sellers, not opportunistic criminals that go out to the strip clubs at night and have white fetishes in the cars they own and, take their many girlfriends out for fancy dinners and travel because inside they know what they're doing is wrong. If this was on a normal trading desk, and a normal trading desk would not do this trade, it's idiocy. There's no margin for error. There's nothing here. When you had AMC and GME up in the 10s or 20s or 40s or 100s, there's room there. The stock rallies, they can drive it down. They can trade it all day for 3, 4, 5 days a week. and they can start mining. They literally, you like Bitcoin mining? These criminals mine your money out of the market by fraud. But down here at $1.30, what's the proposal? What's the value? What's the trade proposal here at $1.30? All right, let's short it. Let's sell stock at $1.30. And by the way, they're not taking as much risk as you think because they're just swapping it amongst themselves. Like I say, it's market maker, LLC masturbation. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Strip a little money out, do it on the other one. Ultimately, it'll be the prime broker that pays and the taxpayer. But right now, if you're shorting this stock at 130, what's the value proposition? Well, we're going to have to hold it down for the rest of the year, and we'll eventually get it under a penny, and so it'll be seller boxed. Okay. Well, how much does that cost you? Well, it's going to cost $50,000 to $100,000 a month at a prime broker. We're going to have to pay off the criminals to help us. That'll cost 5 to 10 cents a share. And then we got to pay the interest. And then we got to leave money in the account, and we might have interest on that. So let's say all of that adds up to 30, because you're not going to get it all off at $1.30. You're going to keep selling. Let's just say with price action and all of those costs, it's 30 cents. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, some genius, Kurt Kramer, could sell 1 million shares and net $1 million over the next few months because he got a net price of a 101. And let's say he could get it down to 1 cent. He can make $1 million on the trade. Well, what in return for what risk? This stock could be $10 in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. So he's risking 10 million, and then if he tried to cover, he could drive it to 100. He's risking 100 million to try to make $1 million. This is an idiotic trade. The only reason he continues doing it are two. One, hubris, arrogance, and he's always won before. It's always worked before. If the company in a, anyway, I won't name companies, but another company, right now they need money, he'd call them up and say, well, it's $1.30. I'll buy stock from you at 50 cents. He makes another profit. But most companies would go ahead and do it because they need the money. GTII is not doing that. The other thing is he hires an attorney. I believe he manipulates and coordinates, possibly, it's a possibility anyway, to get the company to hire an attorney that he knows. And then the attorney and he settle amicably. And he gives up warrants. And then he can keep selling and keep selling. Because he says, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, he's coordinating it with a bunch of LLCs in Panama or Germany or in Arizona or Utah, wherever Alpine is. So, and he's criminal. He's criminal. What he does is securities fraud, but he doesn't care. He can separate, just like the Nazis did in Germany. He can separate the cruelty that he's inflicting on people from the momentary gain he's feeling. There's something wrong with the man. And he's got all the self-justification in the world. But he's a criminal. And he's evil. He's evil. So anyway, GTII, or at least his actions are evil. I can't judge another human being. Only God can do that. But his actions for 2 decades are evil. So GTII, that's one reason that I forget how I framed my question, but that's one reason why they're selling here and keeping it down. The second reason, they can't afford to let it go up. They can't afford to let it go up. One is hubris and the realization in their mind the worst thing that can happen is they'll sign an amicable deal with an attorney. Everyone agrees that Kurt Kramer's shit doesn't stink, and that the company needs the money, and hey, we did a great service to the world, which is all crap. And then the second thing is they can't afford to let it go up. They don't have the money. They can't afford to let it go out of control. A normal trading desk would allow the stock to run up. Think GME. Think AMC. Remember the headlines about how much money those pools were losing? Well, when it ran up, what'd they do? They shorted it back down. They probably doubled and trebled the money that they lost in the first instance. So this is a bunch of amateur hour idiots. Kurt Kramer is a functional idiot. He's just a crook. He's a criminal. And Alpine, John Hurry, is a criminal. And all of the people trading around them are criminals. Their investors are criminals. And any prime broker that accepts the order other than Alpine are criminal. Is Gary Gensler complicit? Is Robert Cook complicit? I would argue they are. And I would even go further. Your broker-dealers are criminal. Criminal. And someday, more than just you are going to realize that. And someday, remember Clarence Thomas, this is a high-tech lynching? Someday, there'll be a financial lynching of these banksters. And I hope before it happens, you become independently secure from these trades. Anyway, I think GTI, I don't think they can press it much lower. And just, as sure as me saying that, they'll walk it down criminally because Gary Gensler ignores the over-the-counter market. He goes after Lindsay Lohan. He goes after Kim Kardashian because they have nice asses and pretty eyes to him. He wants a piece of that glory. The guy is misguided. He's on some sort of ego trip. He could be a great man, but he's not a great man. He's facing the moral test that most people don't get in a lifetime, and he's failing it. Gary Gensler is failing the moral test that God has presented him with, and he's doing it on a grand scale. But he doesn't realize it. Because all the people that hang around him are criminals too. I'm not talking about the people that work with him. If you want me to be specific, there's so much corruption in that part of the Democratic Party, my party, they don't even recognize that they're criminal. And they all hide behind lawyers. From Gary Gensler to Kurt full of crap Kramer. If lawyers can get it through judges who don't understand this financial, I want to look up this word, ledgerman. Of course, my computer is slow. Let's see what ledgerman means. Well, it's pretty good. That's what he does. He's a trickster. He moves his hands. That's Gary Gensler when you see him testifying. Well, look over here, and let's talk about this here, and we'll talk that here. They never talk about settlement. They never talk about settlement. I saw, in reference to the gold market, that what happens in the gold market now is sharing of wealth. What the gentleman meant by it is they rehypothecate. Fancy word, isn't it? That must be good. Bankers know how to rehypothecate? I can barely put the gasoline in my car. Bless their heart. They know how to rehypothecate? I better go give them my money. Well, bankers rehypothecating? They're just stealing. All they're doing, like this gentleman called it, they're sharing the wealth. You have one block of stock. You buy it. You buy it. It's in your account. You put up the cash for it. It's in your account. They take that same block of stock and they lend it out. Without telling you, they make the money on it. And then when it's over here, lent out, that person, they lend their shares out. That's rehypothecation. As Wes Christian calls it down in Texas, we call it stealing. It's stealing. But we all look up to him. Women want to marry him. And we continue to give credibility to what the banksters say. What the hell are banks doing for you? What are they doing for you? They lend you money to enslave you, to trap you in a cycle of debt. With credit cards, you guys know the rule of 72. I think that's what it's called. Let me just look it up. I mean, I can explain it to you, but I'd rather do it correctly. Okay, so here's the rule of 72. See the rule of 72? I'll read it to you. Do you know the rule of 72? Do you know the way to San Jose? The rule of 72 is an easy way to calculate just how long it's going to take for your money to double. Just take the number 72 and divide it by the interest rate you hope to earn. That number gives you the approximate number of years it will take for your investment to double. All right, so let's just say you're really fortunate and you find a bank that's going to give you a CD at 4%. I don't think they exist anymore, but let's just say you find a bank that'll give you 4%. You take 4%. Hey, lucky boy. You take 4%. You divide it by 72. That's not right. You know, something in this definition isn't working. Let me reread it. It's an easy way to calculate just how long you're going to take for your money to double. Take the number 72 and divide it by the rate you hope to earn. Okay, so if you earn... Yeah. It did work. My problem, not the formula's problem, I had the wrong decimals. So here, at 4%, it takes 18 years to double your money. 18 years. 18 years to double your money. All right. So let's say you go borrow money from a bank, Capital One. They don't give you one credit card, they give you 3. So you have to pay 3 fees up front. They make the money up out of thin air. 3 fees to establish the account. Then you have 3 cards to pay annual fees on. If you're ever late, you might have 1 to 3 cards that you have to pay penalties on. But I guarantee you, they're going to start you at 28%, 29%, 30%. There's probably some of you out there that remember, as I do, that the maximum a credit card could charge was $12.99. Are you out of your mind? Basically 13%. You know whose state changed all that? Rockin' Joe Biden. Joe Biden's state of Delaware changed all that. All right, so now I want to ask you a question. if 4%, if you got 4%, it would take you 18 years to double your money. And I just described how banks create money out of thin air with credit cards. I'll ask you a question just like Elizabeth Warren asks in her book, which I read. She asked this question: do you see a business plan there? Well, if a bank can create money out of thin air by lending it to you, which is what they can do, and they can charge you fees up front annually and every month, and particularly if you're late, overdraft, all of those fees. But do you still see a business plan as it relates to the interest rates? Let me show it to you. And I won't do the arithmetic. I'll just use this. Remember, 4%, your money doubles in 18 years. Well, what if they charge you 30%, 29, 28? What if they charge you 30%? Their money doubles in 2.4 years, ignoring the fees. They're lending you money out of thin air, charging you fees, and they're doubling that money in 2.4 years. And we need banks? What do we need banks for? And you need your credit score to be perfect? Maybe, but it's not going to help you on credit cards. Maybe. But then they get you in a house and they start raising taxes on that house, and you're in it, and something goes wrong, and they come get it right away. A hedge fund comes and gets it from you right away. And it goes into a court. They throw attack attorneys on you. Magistrate judges. What do we need banks for? Well, we need them to manage our money. We need them to manage our money. So I'm going to give my money into an ETF. You know what they do with the ETFs? They lend out those shares so they can crime you. Anyway, I'm going on too long on that. But I really think GTII, it's not going to last. They've got events coming, and the Kramers now have, and the Alpine, have sold so many shares that don't exist in GTII. You can argue, well, they can keep doing it. Well, not in a time of tight money, not in a time of banks collapsing. And there are honest banks out there. There are honest bankers. And there are people that are not swooning at the idea of getting their daughter into Harvard the easy way, or being able to cheat the system and get rich. There are people that are honest. A lot of people. And so as this story gets out there, there's going to be pressure. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now because I've just gone on and on and on. That's the risk. I guess space calls keep the mics moving around. Jenny Ella. Well, I don't know how I can really help this whole thing. Marianne Williamson says love will win. Well, love is love and not fade away. You know, Waylon Jennings says in so many words, love is the reason for jukeboxes. He didn't put it exactly that way. But I don't know. I think love is a pain in the ass, if you want to know my opinion. Amy Winehouse said it best. Love is a losing game, one I wished I'd never played. All right, James Pack asks Sam, are you happy currently with what's going on? If you are, vote for Joe. I don't think you need to vote for Joe. He's going to win whether you vote for him or not. If he's on the Democratic ticket, he'll win. This time you'll get 87 million votes. I know that's true. There's a lot of love here. Well, Spiny, that's right. Martin Armstrong cautions on real estate that they're going to raise taxes. So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know what the answer is. Biden's corpse will win. Well, you got to wonder what people see in Joe Biden right now. I mean, I couldn't vote for him because I thought he was senile and corrupt. But my friends said, no, he's not. You're going to vote for Trump? Trump's a misogynist. He's terrible. Well, I don't know if any of you remember, but I got to remember her name right now. I'll think of it as I'm talking to you. Tara Reid, young woman working in the halls of Congress, and a senator slammed her up against the marble wall and inserted his, digits inside of her and said something like, you want it, you love me or like me. Well, she complained. She got fired. Nothing happened. And there's a radio call where her mother called in asking about it, so it verifies that this young woman was so distraught she shared it with her mother. But you know what the Democrats did? They covered that up. But that man is not a terrible man. He's accepted money from China and from the Ukraine via his son. But that's not a terrible man. That's not a terrible man. He wrote the racist, 3 strikes and you're outlaw, and he's not a terrible man. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess if you're a Democrat, you can't see anything wrong with Biden. And I guess if you're Republican, you can't see anything good. But I'm a Democrat, and I can't see a single thing good about Joe Biden. And to say he's not Trump is good enough, that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. Right now, Trump is going to fix our election system, and I'd rather have an honest election system than Joe Biden in office. And apparently, according to Patrick Byrne, Trump will fix our settlement system. I'd rather have an honest market than Joe Biden in office. And I really like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But if Trump's going to do those two things, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Anyway, let me see. India and Russia are now conducting trade in rupees. Very, very good. Very, very nice. When we were in, where were we? Maybe Tunisia. We weren't in India. Oh, it might have been in Hong Kong, somewhere in South. Anyway, when I was a kid, they would come up with you. This is very, very cheap. Very, very nice. Anyway, I'm not making fun. It's just a memory I have of people coming up selling things. Now, they live better than we do. We'll be the ones when they come visit us. Do you want this piece of plastic that represents the Statue of Liberty? I don't know. I don't think it's a specific party. I think it's, unfortunately, you could argue it started under Reagan, but I think the president that was the best Republican out there and got more of the Republican agenda passed than any Republican ever could was Bill Clinton, and I voted for him twice. I also think he's the one that made morality about what the definition of is, and made it's just too fine a point. And then the corruption, the money, the corruption. This was a family that was broke. I don't know. I just don't know. Jenny L., you can't talk politics? Well, you know, Jenny, Trump changed his name to Crooked Joe. Yeah, I can't talk politics anywhere around me. So I inflicted on you guys. I'm sorry, but I can't talk politics anywhere around myself. There isn't a single person in 10 yards or 10 miles that I can represent these views to. What was that, lucky boy? Really? Samantha, you're from South Africa? Yeah, Bill repealed the Glass-Steagall Act. You're absolutely right. He also put through the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act that said basically that Wall Street could regulate itself. It was more about derivatives and commodities, but that attitude has now pervaded Wall Street. These aren't honest men or women, but mostly men. Well, that's true. Trump didn't do anything. I agree with that, crazy world. There's no question that there's Lucky right there. There's no question that Trump did nothing. I agree with you. George W. Bush, the Popinjay president, did nothing. In fact, I think his SEC chairman was quite of a parcel with Gary Gensler. And you're absolutely right. Trump had a chance. He also did nothing on the elections. So you're absolutely right. I can't argue with you on that. Well, Jenny, your husband and your children, the one thing, they have an opposite view to yourself. The one thing I try to remember is when I was a vociferous supporter of Bill Clinton. I defended Bill Clinton. I've told you before. There was a dinner in, I think it was in New York City, but it might have been in Texas. And I was invited, and there were investment bankers, CEOs of several oil and gas companies, and there were other people there too. I can't remember their fields, but it was meetings of powerful people, and I used to defend Bill Clinton against all of them, and I defended Barack Obama against all of them, and it was a huge table. But the thing I remember most, Jenny, is, and this happened, that's one example. It happened over and over and over again. After the discussion, and it was heated, after the discussion, they'd come up, say hi to me. Every time they saw me, they'd say hi. Hey, let's go have a drink, or let's have dinner again. Why? Because they showed respect to my ideas as separate from me as a person. And so they may have hated what I was saying, but they didn't hate me. And I try to show that back, that lesson I learned. I think Democrats around here, and remember, I used to be blinded by Well, I just think it's changed, but maybe I've changed. I try to always remember that Democrats, even the ones with purple hair and other things. I don't want to be mean, but other things, and then they believe in this country. They see it differently. They're upset when they see a white guy like me because I represent the patriarchy. I don't know, guys. If this is the patriarchy, you're welcome to it. But I think that they have in their hearts the same common good goal to make America a better place and make America a place that their children, well, if they have children, can be proud of. Everybody says or lives as if the American motto is, hey, it's a free country. Republican or Democrat, we all share that we believe this is a free country. So anyway, Jenny, I'm sorry they don't see it. It's a lot like the short selling situation we're in. Once you see it, it's hard to go back. Jenny, I have a hard time going back to feeling like Bill Clinton was a great president. I can't even remember now why I wanted to vote for Obama twice. Because of I mean, I hate to say it to those people who Trump did more for the African American community than Obama. On the other hand, Obama, just by getting elected, broke barriers. So there's that. Although I did notice Joe Biden's economy, apparently minorities, African Americans, it's the lowest unemployment ever. I personally see that data as manipulated to try to say that Joe Biden's better than Trump. But it might be true. And so where I live here in D.C., the economy is very strong, very strong. Real estate is strong. The roads are full of people. Restaurants are full. So maybe Joe Biden is a great president. I don't know. I've been red-pilled. What's red-pilled? That's from that movie. If I take the blue pill, I can believe that Jill Biden is a beautiful first lady. If I take the red pill, I realize that Joan Rivers might have been right. Yeah, it's The Matrix. The Matrix. Samantha H. Samantha H. looks like she likes to in a good way, enjoy life, have fun. So I like that. I like optimism. Take Ahmed. Take the blue pill. Get hard. Very good, Ahmed. Well, Jenny, one thing I do, and unfortunately I've submitted all of you to this political diatribe, but one thing I do is I just don't talk about it, or that's mainly it, and I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Let me see. Samantha H., The Matrix, Biden family is corrupt, we'll play along. Well, I know, Nick Jeff, somebody came on last night and said that, and I think that's right. I think Obama, I remember particularly there was one jerk of a Republican senator. I can't remember his name, nor can I see his face. But there was one Republican senator that blocked everything that Obama did. And you're absolutely right, Nick. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we shouldn't argue. We shouldn't argue. We shouldn't argue. Wow. Ham just sent over the U.S. SEC issues the largest ever whistleblower award, $279 million. $279 million. It's taken a while to come up. The SEC issues the largest ever whistleblower award of $279 million. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has issued its largest ever award of nearly $279 million. Have I said the same thing 3 times in a row? To a whistleblower whose information helped the regulator's enforcement action. The regulator did not disclose the case concerned in its statement. The award is more than double the $114 million that it had issued in October 2020. As this award shows, I like this guy. There is a significant incentive for whistleblowers to come forward with accurate information about potential security laws violators. Gurbir Grewal, director of the SEC's Division of Enforcement, said in a statement. Well, I reported to it, but... And the reporter is Manya Saini in Bengaluru. And the editing was done by Devika Sayamnath. Look, an argument isn't the mere gainsaying of what the other person says. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Look, I came in here for an argument. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Ding. I'm sorry. Is that the 5-minute argument or the full half an hour? Well, let's go with the 5 minutes and go from there. I can't argue with you unless you've paid. I paid just now. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. I paid just now. No, you didn't. You wouldn't be arguing with me unless I paid. I gotcha. Not necessarily. I could be arguing in my spare time. No, I'm not growing a beard. I was going to shave, but I ran out of time because anyway, I had a board call out of the blue, and I just didn't have time. I'm not trying to grow a beard. I have a bit of pognophobia. $279 million awarded to Anna Trades. Let me see. What says something about India? I'd love to go to India. I would love to visit India. You were talking in your sleep with loving on your mind. I saw something about India, and now I can't find about India. That's in India. CPO Sharky said that. No, I don't want to get a beard going. Anthony Hopkins look. I didn't lose my razor. I just... Bengaluru is in India. I'd love to go to Bengaluru. One fix it. That's the best way to watch this dribble, I guess, which is watch it at 10x. Yeah, India, I'd love to go. I don't know who Gandalf is really, but that's all right. I like literature, some literature. I like to read, and political history I like. I wish I could read more than I do. But you know, I majored in economics, and I wish, like you just said, those two subjects would be better, I think. But anyway, you can't do everything. Nadal to win the French Open in 2024? I don't think so, Aman. I think, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Alcaraz, and I'm having a hard time really warming to that guy. Partly because I feel like Djokovic was denied the opportunity to play at least 7 Grand Slams. Slam events, and so he's at 22 vis-a-vis Nadal in the Grand Slam trophies, and it just feels unfair. I would have told you that I thought Djokovic would win the French Open this year, but he's just looked terrible on his first 2 clay court campaigns. He skipped Madrid, and I read that Andre Agassi was interviewed and said that one of the reasons Andre Agassi left as Djokovic's coach is because Djokovic wouldn't get an elbow operation, because Djokovic likes to let his body do its own healing. So if I had to guess who's going to win the French Open, I think it's going to be Alcaraz. There's a lot of good players, though. I think this guy Korda is good. Tsitsipas is great, I think. Sinner's good. Rublev is good, but he always buckles. So I don't know how many wins he's going to get. There's a couple I'm leaving out. But I think you guys don't realize how lucky you've been if you watch Djokovic's game. I don't think there's a more complete tennis player that has command of so many shots and has the willpower to win. But he might be, I mean, he's clearly at the end of his career, but he might not win anymore either. I don't know. But I watched Alcaraz briefly 2 days ago, and he was down, I want to say he was down 2-5. I want to say it was 2-5. in the second set. I could be wrong, but something like that. And he came back to win the set. That guy is very talented. I'm just frustrated that he's already had many weeks at number one and won Grand Slams, in my opinion, because Djokovic wasn't allowed to play. So I got to get over that. But Alcaraz is going to be the dominant force in tennis for a long, long time. Anyway, I think Alcaraz is going to win the French Open. Samantha, I didn't watch tennis in the 1990s because I got tired of Sampras's, and others, this serve and volley, just serve, volley. Oh, that was a point. Agassi was good, but then I got bored with that. But anyway, I got really interested. I saw Djokovic play against Nadal live down in Florida in I think they called it the Emerson Open, but anyway, Miami. And he was young. He didn't win. I think Nadal won. But I saw it. I predicted, because I used to follow Jimmy Connors. And the one thing that Jimmy Connors was great at was returning the ball. I think Jimmy Connors was the best return of serve player I had ever seen. When I saw Djokovic, I said he's going to go a long way. He was just like a brick wall returning serves. So anyway, I've gone on about that. Yeah, the Joker. He was. We were sitting in the sun. It was so hot, but I didn't want to leave. He was something. Anyway, 29 million. You watched McEnroe? Wow. I'm trying to think. I don't think I ever saw McEnroe play. I got to think about that. I might have seen him do a doubles later in life, but I'm talking about when he was a singles champion. I don't know. I might remember it later that I saw him. But I saw Jimmy Connors play his last win, you probably know this, Samantha, but the person with the most wins in ATP history is Jimmy Connors, male anyway, 109. 109, Jimmy Connors. I think Djokovic might end up beating that, but for now, it's been unassailable. I saw him win his 100th and 9th ATP title. Well, Newfie, if a friend sold 9K restricted shares, they weren't restricted, and they probably weren't real shares. You saw Serena Venus and Sharapova play. I saw Serena. I saw Venus play. I saw I can't say that, but I've seen Sharapova play. But I saw them in Wimbledon. Oh, not in person. Yeah, okay. Now Nadal is last year at the French Open, I really thought Djokovic in the semifinal match, I thought Djokovic was going to win. To my memory, Djokovic had him one break in the third set. I'm trying to think. It might have been the fourth. My point is, he had him one break, and it might have been two breaks. It might have been 5-2. Just anyway, that sounds like the other story I just said. And I thought, oh, great, Djokovic is going to win. But out of nowhere, Nadal just got all this energy. It's like he took a drug. And that guy has willpower. He's got skill. He's a gentleman. Federer's a gentleman, but my favorite is Djokovic. Who looked better in a skirt, Martina Hingis or Steffi Graf? Well, they weren't wearing skirts when I met them. No, I would have to say Steffi Graf, I would have to say. But no one beat Ivan Gulagong. Yeah, Nadal on clay is amazing. Hey, Chris, thank you. Sorry we're not talking stocks. I don't know. Yeah, Nadal being left-handed and on clay, the kick in his serve to, I guess that would be Djokovic's, it might be to his forehand, but I think it's to his backhand. Anyway, it's difficult. Nadal is quite the player. But I don't think Nadal would have won the Australian Open except that Djokovic was ejected from the country. I don't know. So I have all these sour grapes, I guess. It was restricted in your account, Newfie? Well, Newfie, I'm gonna speculate that the brokerage firm wanted to buy the restricted shares because they know they're going to need them. But that's a speculation on my part. They're going to have to go out and buy shares, so maybe they got started early. I don't know. Might be a good sign. That's your order. Chris Everett had nice, but I can't. The problem is, Spiny, I cannot listen to Chris Everett now. The inanity that she says is just like, ugh. Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Roger Federer, Jim Courier, Becker. Of those, I would pick Andre Agassi as my favorite out of that group. That's just a guess, Snoopy. John. Put this on. This is a robe. Put it on. I went to Wimbledon. If you go to London when it's Wimbledon time, and if you're either your mate or yourself, all by yourself, if you have flexibility, just show up on the day of the match if you don't have a ticket. They let you in the grounds, and you'd be surprised. I got into the center court with my friend who happens to be a woman. We got into center court. We didn't get the first match or the second, but we got the last match for free. Someone gave us their tickets. All right, good night, CPO Sharky. Test. Yeah, Becker is pretty good. You can play golf, Jenny? I don't know how to play golf. Tom M., I did it again. You got MEGL a few days ago. Can you call me stupid without calling you stupid? Well, if it helps, I lost money in the MEGL. It more than doubled, and I didn't get out, and then I got out at a slight loss. I don't know what to say about MEGL. There's a lot of volume. And when there was 100 million shares or whatever that traded one day, that's a lot of churning. And I thought, well, that could be that they're cleaning it up. Or it could be there's a lot of buying out of China, Hong Kong, and maybe the shorts aren't covering, but it's new buying. Because remember, the shorts are competing with new punters. So I don't know. I don't know how to call MEGL. Tom, I wouldn't say you're stupid. I would say that it's not over yet. And it might be worth adding a little to your position. On the other hand, just to speak out of the other side of my mouth, I would say that was a lot of volume, so maybe it is all she wrote. I would rather be in GoLogic and Finger and GTII. To me, those three stocks, GoLogic, Finger, GTII, have the best chance for a squeeze in the short term. I know it doesn't feel like it, particularly with GTII, but sentiment, as Jack McCarthy used to say, sentiment can change on a dime, and these stocks can go up on a dime. Well, MMTLP hit you with the Willy Wonka. Good day, sir. You lose. I don't know what that means. I can't figure that out. Well, I don't know if he's the best pickleball player, but he plays a mean. How does that go? The pinball wizard plays a mean something. Plays a mean. Can't remember. Copium. Watch out for HKD. Yeah, Newfie. William, do you think selling at $68 GTI will get executed? Dan. Chick Magnet? I don't know, Silverback. I will say that I had something. Do you know how I know it? Because now I don't have it. I used to have something when I walked onto a yacht. My scarf was strategically placed. But it's only by its absence now that I now know I had something when I was younger. I'm going to say to you, to answer your question, Dan, I'm going to say that yes, you could get it all done at $68. That's my answer. It's a bit of a gamble in the sense that maybe you should take your original money off the table earlier. But my view on GTII, if it goes to 680 this time, it may go to 10 or 12, which may lead it to 13, 21, 34. But to me, anything that gets it above 10 or 11 will get it to 68. Anything that gets it above 20 will get it to 68. So yes, I think you'll get it off at $68 a share. You can always change your order, but I think you'll get it all off at $68 a share. Wow, you can play with pink clubs, pink bag, and other accoutrements. It's the only sport I'm not competitive. Wow. Um, I would love. I always enjoyed golf when I would go out with my friends. I just can't play it, and it's embarrassing. But it's a lot like, to me, when you get on a good golf course. It has that same feeling as you get to the top of a ski lift, and when the wind's blowing just properly, you feel like it's just you and the rest of the world, and it's very clean. And I also like golf when you're having fun with the guys. I used to go out and we would drink while we did it. I don't know what I would do now. Have a cup of coffee? Have a cup of coffee, friend. Pinball Wizard. Yeah, but with the Pinball Wizard, he played. Oh, that's what he did. He sure played a mean pinball. That's what it is. He sure played a. When will Logic.neo have spin-offs? When will Logic.neo have spin-offs? I don't know that I'm a. You have to be a magnate to be a magnet. Yeah, you can have one for me. I'm not judging it. Yeah, I think Vanden plays. I've said on one or two of my videos that if the buy-in happens, I think GTII can be at $500 in an hour. But you know, I think some of Avid's advice is important to take, which is, you know, don't buy all these high numbers. My numbers are high. Other numbers are lower. And the whales own tens of millions of shares. So they're going to control a lot of the activity when they sell. My belief is there's 300 to 350 million and maybe more counterfeit shares that have to be bought in. But if I'm wrong, you know, it might only be 50 million, which is still huge. But so, yeah, my numbers are high because I believe I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime setup, and I think it's what's going to happen. I wouldn't say them if I didn't believe it. But it's I don't know. It's hard to quantify risk it. It's hard to give it a risk number because on its face, if you look at 100 stocks, for a stock to go from $1 to $68, you'd go, what are you smoking? But then as you get to know the information, the odds start coming in your favor. And so it's all right and good to put your percentages there. One difference between my approach, and it's probably an interest level. I don't know what it is. But Avid sees lots of trades. Why? Because he reads the charts brilliantly. So he can see when to buy, when to sell. And there's a huge opportunity out there in all these over-the-counter stocks that he can see the patterns. He can see it. Me, I'm just an old chunk of coal, as Billy Joe Shaver would say. I just see a setup here and maybe two or three others that you play the setup. And yeah, I look at charts, and I try to, but I rarely trade off of charts. I don't have the cojones to trade when a stock is up and it's showing massive strength, and I think it's about to go into a short squeeze. I don't have the cojones to get out. Avid does. He's a good trader. On when it's sort of backing and filling, I don't know. I've never bought based on a chart. But when a stock looks like it's washed out in a chart and it's down, and you know the story, just like where GTII is now. You know the story. You know the triggers. You know what the Kramers have done. You know Alpine's in trouble. You know the FBI is after these malfactors. Malfactors. You know that West Christian is after disclosure. You know all this. So the facts haven't changed, just the price. And you know the price is being manipulated by criminals. So that's an example where if I'm able to, I average down and I buy more. But it's not based on the charts. It's based on the setup. And as I've said so many times, when you buy in inexpensively and you know the story, and you've got idiots like the Kramers and Hurries selling this down, they've always won in the past. Well, that gets in your head. Well, they're going to win again. They're going to win again. I don't see it that way. Interest rates have gone from free to expensive. Liquidity has gone from an ocean to, a dried up stream in a desert. And, people are watching it. Alpine's in trouble. I don't see it where they're going to win here. But that gets in your mind. And then there's one person on the call the other day that was great. But basically, the stock market, when prices are cheap, people go, oh, geez, I should be out. That's when they sell. When they're expensive, they buy. We've got to try to do it in the other direction. And with GTII, nothing has changed in the story to make it less attractive at $1.30 than it was last week at $1. I can't remember, $1.60, or the month before at $2. Nothing's changed. They've just dug the hole deeper. And in fact, we're closer to having some of the events that could trigger a rally. So I think GTII, regardless of what the charts say, is a buy here. And I feel the same way about Finger. Finger got down to $1, and it rallied nicely, pulled back yesterday after the market. It showed you where it wants to go. And now today, I believe they manipulated it downward. And Finger does have the aspect that it's NASDAQ, and there's something screwy going on with NASDAQ stocks that I can't explain. It can't just be the puts and calls, because the open interest isn't high enough. To me, it's got to be that there's a banker somewhere signing a contract with the criminals, because it's always worked before, and taking extraordinary risk for a small premium. Just remember, that didn't work out in The Big Short if you saw the movie. It feels like they're always going to win, but eventually when it goes pear-shaped, it's trouble. Hot Ukrainian women. I'm looking for a woman about 5'6", ain't into glamour, ain't into kicks. I trust Ham's opinion on HKD. I don't know what it is. Yeah, Doug. Ham said HKD could have another run. I agree with him. I would listen to him over me. I'd listen to Ham over me. Well, there you made a really good. Jenny, there was a guy they'd always team me up with because he was an ace golfer and I'm a crappy one. I loved it. I loved watching the shots and the skill. I loved it. But I don't have that. I don't have that power. Yeah, I think HKD could have another run. Absolutely. Danielle Spears, do I think finger will drop again before going north? Let me look at the chart. So where did that song come from? I'm looking for a woman 5'6", ain't into glamour. It's not Night Moves. I thought it was. Oh, there, lyrics. Wow. That's not the right song. Oh well, I can't find that one. Well, let me look for the chart. So here's Finger's chart. See that? There's Finger's chart. Let's go out a year. And here's Finger's chart. I'd have to say no. I don't think it's going to pull back. I don't think it's going to pull back. I think it's going to go to 298 very soon. You might have a slight pause at 250, but I don't think so. I think it's headed to the red line, 298. Very quickly. Look how it did it here. Look how it went up here. That's what's coming. That's what's coming in Finger, in my opinion. What's happened here? It crossed the 50-day. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, it crossed and the other one's 200-day. So it crossed the 50-day moving average upward, and it looks nice as it can be. And now it needs to break the 200-day. I think it's going to $3. And I think if it'll break through there, it'll go to 325, 350. Excuse me. And then it'll test back at around 298.3. And then I think it goes to 4. And then 450. 5. 750. That's if any of that is resistance. Look how it went here. That can happen in finger. Let me look at HKD. Some dog is pooping in my driveway. That's okay. His name is Max. How can you get mad at a dog named Max? That's the chart I have for HKD. I don't know what to say about that chart. Where did the stock close? $660. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. It certainly could run again. On the Trento mine, Jack, I don't have any specific updates other than it's still, I can show you that. You might already know it, but I'll show other people. Here's the GTII website. See that button, View Portfolio? It says ARV Portfolio, Classroom Salon. That's an education tech company. Gold transactions, commodity transaction system. Products in development. Sorry, projects in development. So you go to there, projects in development. Wildfire Media Corp. Licenses the 1-800 Law Firm brand to national network of law firms committed to protecting the rights of clients in areas as diverse as consumer protection, blah, blah, blah. Letter of intent, March 9, 2022. May 2022. Term sheet, September 14. Share exchange agreement to acquire 100%. subject to a verification of the assets and liabilities, as well as a PCAOB compliant audit for 2020 and 2021. That went over, so now they have to do 2022 as well. And then you've got the Trento Resources and Energy Corp. It's owned by Mr. Sean Weintraub. He created the company to acquire a 40% interest in the Trento SPA mine, which is a privately held company registered in Copiapó, Chile, whose purpose is to develop, refine, and sell rare earth minerals and iron, the Trento project. Trento SPA owns 1,400 hectares of mining concessions for rare earth minerals and iron in Chile. Operations are projected to commence in 2022 with full-scale production expected at the end of 2023. Timeline: on November 10, 2021, the company entered into a stock purchase agreement with Trento and Sean Weintraub. Mr. Weintraub is a United Nations Global Initiative founder who bears diplomatic status and has dedicated over 20 years of his life to the development of breakthrough technologies for humanity. On December 9, 2021, GTII retained Bertrand Galindo Barreto Berolihet and Chaya, a firm in Santiago, You Can't Handle the Truth, Chile, to conduct a due diligence review of Trento's interests. On March 24, 22, Venor Capital Resources Limited is the underwriter of a $350 million bond offering for Trento SPA. They entered into an MOU, with Style AG. They left an E out, I think. Inc., a U.S. corporation with offices in Miami and Dubai, pursuant to which the parties are engaging in discussions to enter into a definitive agreement for the purchase by SIAI of the entire $350 million bond offering. So anyway, that was a year ago. My understanding is that deal is progressed to the point a year later that offering is in very late stages of completion. So that's all I know about the mining deal. Wayward Ninja, I think buying Finger makes a lot of sense. Ham did try to get MUL and to follow the same game plan that GTII, Finger, other stocks are trying to do, but Jenny just sent that HKD's short percentage is 54%. It's pretty high. Be interesting to see. Look. So Ham did try to collaborate with MUN. He did a lot of work for it. And the CEO said that he checked with his lawyers, and the lawyers said ixnay. So it was either the lawyers or the CEO. Ultimately, it's the CEO said no, they had a better way, and you can see what happened. It's tough. CEOs don't know what to believe, and they can't believe how criminal and corrupt the system is. They just can't believe it. And some of them have to experience it to learn it. But by the time they experience it, well, that doesn't support the argument, so I won't bring it up. But by the time they experience it, it's too late for their company. Well, that's it, Jack. I don't really have, non-public information on the Trento mine. It's just the timing of what was promised, what's going on. It's still alive. It just makes sense. There was probably a little bit of a hiccup with the financial markets somewhat recently, but it just makes sense that it's taken a year, and we should be almost done with that. If it were dead, they would have to put out a press release. Who is the Chinese group to jump on HKD? I don't know. Well, one fix-it man. They did the reverse split. That just puts more meat on the bone for the criminals to cannibalize. And it's a disastrous situation. Now, what I would tell you, one fix-it man, is I don't know. See, I don't have enough information on MULN. But if they got a contract, if they got revenue, like MMAT might, that's big enough, that could just blow the shorts out of the water. But I really would just stay away from MULN. I just, unless you know something, which if you know anything, you know more than I do about MULN. But you just want the setup to be there. And Ham has GTII right where you want it. Ham has Finger right where you want it. And I would rather go with those than take a chance on me, take a chance on me. Edward Barona, how much would be a reasonable settlement for MMTLP? Obviously, that depends on who's answering the question. But to me, I think anywhere from $400 to $1,100 a share would be the reasonable settlement. But most people are going to say, what are you smoking? So I could see a situation where if they came to you, many of you, with a $20 offer or $10 offer, people are going to take it. So there's probably a more sensible way of doing it slowly rather than all at once. But they don't want discovery, and they don't want attention, and they don't want these lawsuits to go on forever. But my view, and we had a really good discussion on Space Call last night. There's people that have so much more knowledge of oil and gas than I do, and it's what I've done for quite a while. Oil and gas, there's always something, and there's always something for a guy like me that I learn in every new story, every new situation. But using John Berta's number of 3.2 to 4 billion barrels of oil, and I'm really uncomfortable giving any credit to the natural gas, which is 7 trillion cubic feet. It might be more now. I'm really uncomfortable with it because gas prices are low, and I can't suss out what the economics are of that gas. So I just rather give it zero value. There's water there. There's other things, I guess, on the balance sheet. But just looking at the oil and dividing it by 165 million shares, I come up with about $100 a share value for NextBridge. I think if you listen to a more rational person than myself, somebody that has more experience valuing large kind of big boy projects like what the Oro Grande will turn into, maybe that valuation is way too high. Maybe it should be more like $10, $15 a share. Why? Why would there be such a difference? Because even, and by the way, I use $5 a barrel in the ground, $5. I might be wrong. Maybe I should only use $1. Many deals get done at $20 and $30 a barrel in the ground. But there's so many variables. It's the late stages. But every project in oil and gas that I've ever dealt with, and I tell you what, I've had more failures than successes. I haven't found oil and gas to be all that easy, and I actually think that is an underpinning of my thesis that over time, oil as a resource is going to get much more expensive, because I don't think it's that easy to find in economic quantities anymore. But there's people that would argue with you for that, with me about that. I'll just show you. I forget who asked this question about NextBridge, but I mean, I'm not a very good artist, and I asked a question last night. If this graph measures time this way, and value this way, when Torchlight got involved in the Oro Grande project, Torchlight was back here in the value creation stage. It was unknown. It was a new field. There was a lot of skepticism. I called my friends that I know. Well, people have tried to get oil out of there in the past. It's not economic. There's no takeaway. You need a lot of money. It's not. I got a lot of people saying that's never going to work. Well, then Torchlight got screwed by the shorts, but time has gone by. So when I looked at Torchlight and bought into it and thought it was going to go, it's back here. There were, to my memory, there was the Hazel project. They still have that. And the Hazel project back then, I don't remember the number of wells. But it could have been 1 or 2. It could have been 3 or 4. But the Hazel project wasn't a meaningful, huge value part of the proposition. It was sort of the bunts and singles part. But they were working that. And then in the Oro Grande, to my memory, no wells had been drilled. Or maybe one was about to. But if the news says differently, go with the news. It's just that I just remember it being really young as a project. That's all. That's what I mean. Now, then oil prices went below zero when China and people here, and Fauci and the rest, decided to shut down our economy to make sure they could cheat the election and Trump didn't get elected again. That's all political opinion. It's all crap. But that really hurt Torchlight. The shorts hurt Torchlight. Torchlight merged with MMAT, who needed their listing. They put this Oro Grande project in the stub distribution, and now we're in the situation we're in. But what's happened is time has gone by, and in the case of Torchlight, you've moved further along this value creation. This is time down here. This is value. This is where you acquire acreage, you do your seismic, you put your team together, you tell your story, no one listens to you, they start to listen to you, you raise a little money, you drill some wells, and oil goes below zero, and you're just having a nightmare of a time getting the market to see any value proposition in Torchlight. Well, then somehow, and I can't give you the exact progression, but somehow they got 10 wells drilled. Good, I don't know what good means, but 10 wells that would produce, as I understand it. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe 2 wouldn't. Something tells me there's 1 or 2 wells that might be just disposal wells. But anyway, just forgive me for not being exactly precise. But they got 10 wells drilled, which they could produce. But they're shut in right now. Well, this 10 wells is a lot. 10 wells starts to be law of large numbers. It's good. Well, the other thing is they got, well, I found out what it's called last night, Wolf Camp. But they got shallow wells. They've got the shallow wells they can produce, and I guess they proved that was there. It was a theory. But these shallow wells are inexpensive. Theoretically, your lifting cost, obviously, it's shallow, that's going to be less. And there's all sorts of analog production. I hate this term, but they call it closeology. All over that part of Texas, and I suppose it goes into New Mexico. I can't picture it in my head, but it's very close to the border. And the dinosaurs didn't know to stop roaming right at the border of Texas. So anyway, you've got the Wolf Camp, shallow. This is production that I don't remember being discussed back here in the value creation. So you got that. Then you've got the water that's necessary for fracking. You've got the natural gas, and there has been some infrastructure built. So this science is moving along this value creation line dramatically. All this negativity, what's with the negative vibes? It's not vibes, negative something. But anyway, all of this negativity, despite it all, the value proposition, it's not necessarily reflected in any prices, but it's been going up. It's been going up. Now you can argue what this is all worth. To me, the number is, and you know, a much smarter guy, a much more sober guy than I, Bill Pecos, would probably tell you my numbers are, well, number one, he'd tell you it's foolish to even project numbers. And number two, he'd tell you probably my numbers are somewhere shy of Hollywood. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I just need to use my calculator. because whenever I've done arithmetic, I'm always wrong. So okay, so I'm going to say this is all just theoretical. So don't take any of these numbers. Do not take any of these numbers as etched in stone. And again, it's probably best not to make any predictions at all, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. In my opinion, the value of the stock right now of NextBridge, when you go up this value creation line, is somewhere here. I think you could argue the oil in the ground is $5 a barrel, 4 billion barrels. I think that's right, $20 billion. 100 divide by 165 million shares gives you $1.21 a share. Now, why could that be just preposterous? Well, I don't know if anyone's going to pay $5 in the ground when they've got to build out the infrastructure. They still haven't proven. Well, I think he said last night to me, but they still haven't really proven what the life of these wells are. They haven't proved that the wells will produce, the deeper zones will produce quantities of oil that justify production. They think they will, but it's always something. My experience is it's always something. On the other hand, once it gets proven up, a big boy's not going to pay $5. They're going to pay $20, $30, $40. Let me show you. Let me get a different color pen. I don't have too many here. I'll just use blue if it shows up. I'll show you why. So here on this value creation curve, down here there's risk. All these risks I just said. Now I think it's worth $100 a share. Here's 1,000. Right in the middle is $1,000 a share. So the question becomes, what does NextBridge do? Does NextBridge sell here? All oil companies face this question. That all oil companies are for sale at the right price. But do they sell here? Here? They try to get here? Or do you try to get up here? It's an interesting thing that happens, because what happens with oil and gas, it's specific to a project, specific to a company, but it's also the overall oil and gas market. And right now, oil and gas is as strong as it's been, in my eyes, for a while. However, you've got a completely feckless president saying that in 10 years we won't be using oil. You've got advisors to the president that don't realize when they flip a switch or they get in their car or they fly to Bermuda, they're burning oil. They don't realize that when they put on their glasses, they're consuming oil. They don't realize when they pop medicine, there's oil in it. They don't realize when they buy crappy French presses like this, it's made out of oil. They don't realize the very computer I'm talking to you on has a lot of oil in it. They don't recognize all that. They think when they sit in Harvard and their professor can teach them about patriarchy and white supremacism and all of this, and this is the theory of the world, they can ignore energy. Human society is based on energy, and there's no better source of power that we've ever discovered than oil or natural gas. Frankly, oil's probably better, but they're both pretty darn good. Bang for the buck, we've never found anything better. So anyway, on this value creation here, you've got what I think is pretty exciting. I think right now an Exxon or a Mobil, well, they're together now, together again, naturally, in a little while from now. Or I don't know, Apache might not be able to do it, or a Chevron or Oxy comes in and buys at 121. Guess what? They don't have to pay all cash. They can pay shares. They just have to finance this development. The other thing about the big companies, when they buy this at $5 a barrel, I do not know any longer what the oil is valued at on their balance sheets. It's been so long since I just studied the majors. But if the oil on their balance sheets is priced much higher than 5, and it may well be, they can put this on their balance sheet at $5 a barrel of oil in the ground. Unproven, well, not unproven, but you've got the four P's. The 4 P's. And the fifth one, you better wash your hands afterward. But producing, proved behind pipe, I got to get this right, probable and possible. So moose pasture, definite. And companies will pay more for definite oil than they will for moose pasture. But the weird thing is, the majors would rather pay up. They'd rather buy here or here, knowing it was real, than start back here. They have the budget to start back here. They just don't have the time or the capacity. This is too risky. They have places they can go. They're more about managing the returns on their assets than taking these kind of risks. So anyway, as we move up this value proposition here, or even up to here, a major can buy the company with shares, some cash and shares. They can put it on their balance sheet, and it can be a project they're not going to really develop for 10 years or 15 years or 5 years. They can go all in, or they can just do a little bit of work to keep it growing. Why? Because a major or a large independent can tell their investors, we have these assets on page 20, if you flip, we've got this project, and this project. This is the source of our future revenue growth. This is the source of our future reserves growth. So a major, I think, would pay $5. But the last thing I want to show you here, and this is what we're trying to do. I wish I had a different pen, but this is what we're trying to do with GTII or Finger. This explosive growth in value, comes as you do the science, as you prove up the reserves, as you expand the reserves. There's an old saying, the best place to look for oil is where you've already discovered it. Well, they now have shallow, they have deep, maybe there's more zones. Or maybe they prove up the zones. Here, going back to these 4 Ps, if you were a bank, I don't know, I'm making these numbers up because it always changes. And, you know, I'm always on the outside looking in. You know, a bank may give you its credit line 75% of producing wells, maybe. That might be high. 50% of proved behind pipe, that might be high. They may give you 20% of probable. That may be high. I don't think they'll give you anything for possible. This all changes in the cycle. When my experience, when women start showing up en masse at conferences, you're usually at a peak in the oil and gas cycle. It's not to pick on women. It's just that by that time, the market is just booming with optimism and expectation. But we're not at that kind of point right now. So anyway, as you move from down here, you would say it was 4P. It was possible. You get up in here, you're starting to talk about probable. And I would say here, you've at a minimum have some production proven behind pipe. But now you're getting beyond my vocabulary because it's not producing. So I don't know if they can call it proved behind pipe because I don't think they've produced it at all. But that's just, you can clarify that. But as you get into producing, you start moving up this curve. Well, a buyer demands this allogarithmic rate of return down here because they're taking so much risk. A buyer wants some of that return. So NextBridge wants to sell, leaving something on the table for the buyer. But what's interesting is if you get late in the oil and gas cycle, they'll buy up here. Exxon bought James Whitehead's oil company. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. It began with an O. Way up here. Now, why would anyone buy up here? Because if you're dealing with pension money, you can get an arithmetic rate of return. So up here, if you buy this company up here, maybe for $2,000 a share, you can project out to your pension fund that you're going to get 10 to 12% return, and you know it. How do you know it? Because the wells are producing, everything's proved production, and you can hedge your production. So you know you're going to be able to deliver that. Well, you'll pay up for that. But down here, you're not at that point. You haven't made all the investments. You haven't taken the risk out of the project. So down here, you're demanding a return for the risk reward, a reward for the risk you're taking. So anyway, I'll finish with this on my messy paper. I don't think NextBridge will sell before they get up in here or higher. And I've made up the numbers, but my point is, theoretically, they're going to want to get higher up the S-curve in value before they sell. That's my opinion. Now, a lot of people want them to sell now. I don't think that does the project justice. However, and everything's subject to risk. However, if you sell down here, where I think it's worth $100 a share, you could strike a deal with Chevron or with Apache. You come in and develop it, and we'll keep a quarter, or we'll keep an eighth, or we'll pay our own way and keep half. But I don't think they have that kind of money. So, maybe you do it a third for a quarter. I doubt that too. But you keep something of the upside. So you can make a hybrid deal. But one thing by selling here, you take away the risk that oil prices go down or that there's some sort of flaw in this project that you don't find out until later. The other thing is, the other reason you would get out here is you've taken your money from de minimis. This is a nice return here. De minimis to here. You might have a better project to go into. And you might have another place where you can do this again. And so there's reasons to sell here too. But my own opinion, NextBridge is going to want to come up the value creation curve before they sell. And so that's a really long question to your answer to your question, what's a good settlement price? To me, and I'm sorry for my messy drawing, a good settlement price gives you participation here in the meat of this, whether by owning the shares with a cash distribution or just a cash distribution. But it's got to be in this third of the chart to me. So my answer to you is I think a good settlement number would be between $400 and $1,000 a share. And I know if Bill Pecos were here, he'd tell me that he's going to take back his invitation to take me to the oldest soda jerk place in the United States. Frank McLean, thank you. Somebody, feel like I'm losing my brain. Hey, Dadif. Well, Stony Bones, I don't know if you're going to get a chance to get out, or if you do get a chance. Oh, Jenny L. You're going to have to call your daughter, Rebecca. Do I think there's buyers? Well, see, Samantha may know. And Samantha, the Ora Grande, back a few years ago, I don't want to say it was virgin because I was told that people had gone, I don't know what your word to use, prospecting. But it was, Samantha, there's been a big change in Texas, at least two of them. Maybe three, depending on how far back you want to go. George Mitchell Energy, proved that horizontal drilling and fracking can get oil and gas out of these rocks. It's a mixed blessing. Some of it is hype and some of it's real. But his company almost went bust twice, and then it cracked the code. It was a young engineer who I think came up with water as the fracking fluid. Doesn't matter. It was somebody in his engineering department that solved it. So anyway, that might have been the start of it. That opened up a whole new generation of oil drilling in Texas. But the other thing is, they started building more infrastructure westward. Now, a guy like Pecos Bill could explain that much better than I could, but as production came in, there was massive investment with the Eagle Ford and then up and back and west. So there was more takeaway. That's been a big change. I don't think it's a problem fully solved, though. I think there's still an issue where a lot of production has to either be trucked out, I hate it, or flared off. I hate that. But anyway. And then the third thing they did in Texas, and I don't know, I'm going to just give you my general understanding of it. I can't give you the specifics. But the Railroad Commission, the commissioner of the railroad being the most powerful person in Texas, and he can blow your head clean off. You got to ask yourself. Anyway, he's the most powerful person in Texas. He changed the rules. So now in Texas, you can produce from all the zones you have without choking back. I don't know that. Maybe you have to choke it back. I don't know that answer. But you can produce all zones simultaneously. It used to be you had to do a zone at a time. So it turns a lot of these wells that would have been marginal into economic wells. That's the point. And so the Oro Grande, Samantha, may not have been well known, and it may still not be very well known, but I would argue, as a new field discovery, maybe that's what it should be called, I would argue that it's going to be well known, and that's the opportunity in Nextbridge. Is it for sale? I think all oil and gas companies are for sale. It's a question of what price. There's a lot of money tied up in Nextbridge. There's a lot of loans that have been put up to keep it going. So yes, I would assume it's for sale. Is there a buyer at a price they want to accept right now? I don't know. My guess is no. I personally can't see anyone buying Nextbridge until the legal issues surrounding the criminality caused by criminals, the naked short sellers, is resolved. The company did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. Wall Street did, and continues to, in my judgment. And the criminals did. That's the naked short sellers. But until lawyers are dispensed with, I don't think any buyer is going to come in and buy Nextbridge if that buyer is a large pool of money, deep pockets. It's logical that a lawyer seeking a big payday is going to include that buyer in any lawsuit. She's going to want to go after the deep pockets. So I personally don't think anybody's going to buy Nextbridge until this is all resolved. But I think it's okay. As I tried to show you there, I think it means that the value you get will be higher. What's the risk? The risk is the price of oil could collapse. The risk is something could go wrong to condemn the play. That all of that can happen. But for now, it's just growth ahead in the value of that project, in my judgment. Craig Donor. Berta would know better than I would, but I would agree 100% with Berta that they're going to continue developing the Oro Grande. They got to create the value before they sell. But, going back to my little chart, which I know is a nightmare. I know it's a drawing from kindergarten. But if you can take the value from here up to here, or even up to here, there's very little incentive, if you have a buyer, to stay in the play and go from here to here. Because there's more risk reward. There's more risk to the downside. But also from 1,000, I forget who I'm talking to, but from $1,000 a share to 2,000, that's a double. It's nice. But from pennies a share to 100 or to 1,000, that's your huge venture capital type rates of return. So there's a lot more incentive to sell here or somewhere in here and go do it again. Turn around, step up, do it again. Anyway, enough about MMTLP. Dedif, not sure whether to consider today's GTII candle a bullish pin bar or a doji leading to a potential morning star reversal. I've been thinking about that too, Dedif, and I'm wondering if it could be a shining star blocked by a eclipse with an unlit candle. I don't know. Dedif, I have no idea what you're saying there, but I will say, Dedif, I would have liked today on GTII, I would have liked it to close at a high on the day, and I would have liked to have seen a bit more volume. And then I would be telling you it's a trend reversal or a, whatever you want to call it. But it would show to me that the selling was tired and was dried up and the buyers were coming back in. It may be saying that. What's hopes? Everyone was feeling hope until she got up and left. Well, Moody Waters, I think Nextbridge would have a claim, and they may file one to that effect. I do think they have a claim against the short sellers and even the whole Wall Street system for interfering with a very logical growth plan. Now, the jerks on the other side will say, well, there's no evidence their business plan will work. This is the kind of crud that the Kramers come up with in court. I don't know if I should bring it up because I don't fully understand it, but I think one of the reasons MMAT had to raise money is because money they loaned to Nextbridge did not get paid back. I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm not even trying to say that anyone at Nextbridge or MMAT did anything wrong. What I am saying is one of the reasons Nextbridge might not have been able to pay it back is the interference, the tortious interference, the criminality of the shorts affected the business plan visibly. And in that sense, absolutely, I could see both MMAT and Nextbridge suing the system. Too real for you. Samantha. Oh, your brother is a geologist who does compliance. You know, Samantha. Hey, Lucky, don't take this down. Chevron property. Yeah, it could be a Chevron buy. Is this channel working for anyone? Do you mean, why are you listening to this nutcase? I don't know. I'll let them answer that question without looking for the answers. But Will Barksdale, I hope if it's not working for you that I can make it better. I'll be better as soon as I am able. Wolfie, realistically, what do you actually think GTII's odds are of winning, squeezing Alpine, going to jail? That's a lot of different questions. Oh, so so you meant the channel was working, not this idiot. Yeah, I think that's right. Two for you, but I was going to answer something. Oh, Lordy. Let me just look again. I was going to answer something. I want to answer 2 for you. And I wanted to answer... Oh, Samantha. It was more Samantha. I wanted to tell you that I can still remember... I think I can. Your geologist brother. Very smart guy to go into geology. But I'm going to see Samantha, if my memory's as good as I think it is. See, Samantha, you can tell your brother, this guy is just, he's a genius. So you go, can Ollie see down my pants pocket? I'm never going to get it. So that's Cambrian, Ordovician. I think that's Solarian. I'm probably not spelling it right. Devonian. Mesozoic? And then Paleozoic, Permian, Paleozoic. Permian, Paleozoic, I don't know. I'm going to go Paleozoic. It's a 50-50 chance. I don't know. So anyway, Samantha, that's how I used to remember when I took my geology quizzes. Can Ollie see down my pants pocket? And I think it's Cambrian, Ordovician, Solarian. Anyway, he would know. Devonian, Mesozoic, Paleozoic, Permian. I'm probably way off. But anyway, you can tell your brother that I tried to impress you with my knowledge of time zones, time eras in rock. And he's going to say, he doesn't know what he's talking about, girl. That's what it was. That's what it tried to be, Samantha. Well, too real for you. I know I look like Santa Claus. You know, when I look at myself, I don't see all this. I still see that. I still see that. I still see something else. But, you know, if you get old, if you live long enough, it'll happen to you too. You'll be surprised what you see in the mirror. But anyway, too real for you. Yeah, Samantha, you're going to find out I'm all wrong. But he might be impressed that I remember a little bit of my memory trick. I took 2 years of geology, and it was hard to stay interested. On the other hand, it's fascinating. Clint Eastwood. I don't think it's funny, you laughing. Now I know you didn't mean it, but my mule here, he thinks you were laughing at him. I'm sure if you all apologize, as I know you will. Yeah, I like gems, and I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's another science. I liked all. Yeah, the beady eye. Go ahead. Make my day. Why didn't I think of that? Nag, nag, nag. The last wells NBH drilled, they published no data whatsoever. Well, they're a private company, MKC, number one. Number two, they may want to acquire acreage nearby. So they don't want to disclose it. I mean, the skepticism in your question is real. They may not report it because they don't want to put bad news out there. That may be there, but I think that's unlikely in this case. Even with public companies, they'll sometimes have a tight hole. And that's not a reference to anything. But a tight hole means you keep the news close. You don't tell anybody because for the reasons I just said, you may want to go acquire more acreage before you tell anybody. There's no obligation to tell anyone. But as a public company, if you tell one, you must tell all simultaneously. Yeah, right turn, Clyde. I don't think they have a buyer, and happy Cinco de Mayo. No. I think 2 real 4, you're right. But what I said it on the call last night, and I wonder why everyone's talking about the collapse of the dollar, the BRICS. I mean, this isn't new thoughts. What's new is everyone's talking about it. And the skeptical side of me comes out saying that this dire nightmare isn't going to happen right now. But it does give you a warning to get ready for when it does. I don't think there's anything to replace the United States dollar. There will be, particularly if our banks are proven and our securities markets are proven to be fraudulent. But they were proven to be fraudulent in terms of real estate mortgages and and all the tranches in 2008. And Germany kept buying. Other countries kept buying. So I don't know what it takes to get people to realize that our securities system is all fraud. But does the Saudi market have the depth to absorb hundreds of trillions of dollars? No. Does the Chinese market have it? Not yet. They will maybe, but not yet. And remember, China has a lot of debt. While I would think, and I did say this when the ruble collapsed, and I had a girlfriend from Russia, and I suggested to her that she should buy property in Moscow. She bought in Reston instead, so she did fine, but I don't know which would have been better. I think personally, I would think the ruble's a good place to go, but I don't know that people around the world are going to put money in Russia. The euro, the problem with the euro, it's a large market, but the advantage the United States has is if you lose, well, we used to have. Now we've divided ourselves into the blue states and the red states. We don't talk to each other anymore. But it used to be that if you lost your job in Massachusetts, you could drive to Texas and get a job there. And you could pretty much, other than saying naked, you could pretty much fit in down in Texas. You might have to trade your Volvo in for a pickup truck, but you could do it. And you speak the same language mostly, although Spanish is now a vibrant part of the United States. But in essence, with our 330 million people, the job market is able to be, I don't want to say mobile, that's the wrong word, but there's the flexibility of workers being able to move to where the jobs are, and there's the flexibility of real estate and other markets being absorbed or being equalized because populations can move. That's not as easy in Europe. It's possible, but it's not quite as easy. There is some of it, of course. But the other thing is our national debt is our bond market. In Europe, Germany's national debt, it's not, how do I say this? There are arrangements that Germany takes responsibility for some of the other debt in the Eurozone. But there's not a cohesive bond market where you say, the entirety of Europe is going to be putting their full faith and credit behind these bonds. It doesn't have it. We have it in the United States. In the United States, if we wanted to, we could adjust our spending, we could adjust our warmongering, and we could increase our taxes. We could be more effective in our investments. So even though it looks crappy right now, I think the depth of the United States markets means that the U.S. dollar is going to remain the most important part of international currencies, at least for a few more years. I know there's all this talk about digital. I don't think people will accept that. I do agree, and I don't want to speak for him because I'm not as smart as he is, but I do agree, I think it's what Jim Rickards says, is that you're going to see the dollar give way to SDRs, the IMF, which is here in Washington. I would imagine the IMF is going to have to move to Shanghai or New Delhi or Hong Kong from the United States. No one's going to trust the United States anymore. Isn't that a horrible thing to say? But maybe you replace the monetary system now with SDRs. I don't think gold replaces the monetary system, because the monetary system has to have the flexibility to breathe. Otherwise, the mercantile system, you had horrible depressions. You need that, I don't know if you want to call it Keynesian, but you need that ability to adjust money supply. They've abused it, no question, but I don't think going back to a strict gold standard is going to happen. I do think China wants enough gold to sit at the table with, and Russia does as well, maybe Brazil, maybe India, to sit at the table when they negotiate Bretton Woods 3. But I think it'll be, Shanghai junk, as in the boats, 1 rather than Bretton Woods 3. But I don't know. I think it's too soon to write off the dollar, too soon to write off the strength of the United States. I will tell you that if we continue this war with Russia, I think before they send nuclear bombs our way, I think they'll take out our aircraft carriers. They only have to take out one carrier group, and it'll be shiver me timbers. But they may take out more than one. They have hypersonic missiles. While we were squandering our wealth, bombing deserts and assaulting mountains, they focused on materials. Think metamaterials. Think our over-the-counter markets. They have a membrane, or whatever you want to call it, around these hypersonic missiles that can take the heat and the speed without self-destructing. And I can't remember it. They fly at 5 times the speed of sound, or 8 times, or some magnificent number. And we can't shoot them out of the sky. We have no defense against it. That could make everything I'm saying wrong. But on the other side of the equation, everyone believes that Saudi Arabia has a lot of power relative to oil. It's no longer true. I don't know what they produce per day. Russia, I think, is the single largest producer of oil today, and the United States second. I think we briefly, for a year or so, were number 1. But a lot of our production, I think it was 13 million barrels a day. Russia was 12. I think Saudi was saying they were 10 to 11. There's no accurate record. But a lot of our production was a mirage because it was based on cheap money. We're not going to get that production back. A lot of our extra production was the Permian. And I think that's still true. I think that extra 1.5 barrels a day is there. I just think some of the other horizontal and tight sands wells are not, banks aren't going to get sucked into that again. So I think the miracle of U.S. production, and I think Trump's 100% wrong when he says that we were energy independent. I think that's just a mistaken understanding of where we were. But anyway, I don't expect the United States to remain that high in production. I think Saudi Arabia will always be wealthy as an oil producer, but Saudi Arabia, I don't know what it's producing right now, but it used to be able to turn the taps and go to 12 million barrels a day and maybe slightly higher. I think those days are over. The decline rate of Saudi production used to be 0.5% a year. So if we use 10 million barrels of production, 0.5%, now you're going to get me on my arithmetic, is 500,000 barrels a year decline. So just to stay even, they have to find new oil of 500,000 barrels a year, but then that declines, and they don't have it. They're doing horizontal drilling. The Garwar field is the king of kings, but it's old, it's tired, and I think it was discovered in 1948. It might have been 10 years earlier, but the miracle of that field is that they water flood the Special K zone. To my memory, they put 20 million barrels of water through to produce the oil. So anyway, I think Saudi Arabia does not control oil prices anymore. They have a large domestic demand for oil. So that leaves Russia. I don't know. I don't know what to say about Russia's production. I'm not sure. They have a smaller population, and they may be able to keep oil production up. Anyway, the last two big reserves of oil in the world, conventional oil, are Iraq, and it's not that it's big, but they have excess production capacity, is the UAE. But anyway, somebody's telling me to get off the phone, so maybe I'm boring you with that. But it goes back to this question of pricing oil in something other than the dollar. I'm just not sure that Saudi Arabia is as free of us yet as it wants to be. Russia is a different story, though. Russia has excess oil to sell and a lot of gas to sell, and they're already selling it to China in renminbi. So anyway, I'll stop there. I know I was boring you. The point is, to me, is I don't think it's going to be a black and white overnight change. And I think we'll go to war before we let the supremacy of the dollar and our banks collapse overnight, unfortunately. Hey, Scott, sooner or later, a Brazilian is a lot of money. Well, too real for you. I believe the largest buyer of gold is China. I think the largest producer of gold is either Russia or China. I think central banks are buying gold. I think it's an open question whether or not we have the gold we say we do at Fort Knox. It won't matter. We'll just continue to say we have it. The SWIFT system, for some reason, the lunatics that run our country now, Victoria Nuland and Samantha Rice and Jill Biden, I don't know who's running it, have driven the world into the IBAN transfer system away from SWIFT. And you're absolutely right about that. But it still doesn't get away from the problem. Where would you put, if you suddenly had $1 trillion cash, where would you put it? Would you put it in China? Would you put it in Argentina? Would you put it in Brazil? Would you put it in Russia? Would you put it in Saudi Arabia? Would you put it in India? There's still only one place that has the depth. I agree with you that we're abusing our exorbitant privilege, and I agree with you that our comeuppance will come upance here, but I just don't think there's an alternative to the dollar yet. It could be wrong. Could be wrong. And there's nothing, by the way, too, for real for you. There's nothing that the United States couldn't fix about its debt situation and the value of the dollar if we repriced gold that we have. Well, see, the real question is, do we have the gold? And I'm not sure we do. But to my knowledge, the gold that we have is carried at $34 or $36 an ounce. If we reprice that at $10,000, if we repriced it all, $10,000 an ounce or $4,000 an ounce, there are ways for the United States to remain a strong and powerful country. But anyway. Well, Soonerman, J.P. Morgan, vaults of gold and silver, I'm not so sure that they haven't lent that all out. And I'm not sure that the same crap that goes on in our securities markets isn't happening at J.P. Morgan's precious metals. Do you believe they shot down a hypersonic missile, M. Casey? Because if they did, that's great news for us, but I'm not so sure. All right, so I must have bored people because I've gotten several indications I should shut the hell up. But in terms of Finger, I think Finger can go as high as GTII. I think Finger, if there's a buy-in and it gets out of control, in other words, the criminals lose control, I think Finger can go to $100, $200, $500, $1,000 a share. Finger is a massive imbalance. These idiots at the Lin Partners, in the span of just a few weeks, took the short position from 6 million shares to 120 million shares. And since then, and by short, there's no stock to cover it. No stock. So it's really counterfeiting. And they've continued to do so. They haven't covered anything. It is possible they have some sort of, I don't know what to call it, credit default swap type thing with a bank. But look how that helped the banks when the mortgages finally gave up the ghost in 2008. That can come, and it can come very soon. I think Finger is going to be a rocket ship. Last time they got it went to 10, they got it back down to $1. Prior to that, it went to 15 something, and they got it over time back down, believe it or not, under $1. This time I don't think they're going to have that ability. So if it breaks 10, if it breaks 15, it might be all she wrote. And I think that could happen to Finger very quickly. I really mean it when I say that Finger could be the next Chinese stock. It is a New York stock exchange, a New York based stock. But their business is out of China. Their investors are out of China. Finger has the top-up business in China. And when you're in the UK or anywhere else in the world and you're using a phone, you top up your minutes. And Finger has the ability, one of the licenses, I think there's only 3, there might only be 2, where they can buy minutes from China Telecom at a discount, and then they sell those minutes into the system, whether, I don't know if they use the cards like they do at the UK. You go into the chemist, or not the chemist, you go into the newsagent and buy a minute top-up card. But they do sell them online, just like we do things online here. So anyway, that revenue is growing by leaps and bounds at Finger. The problem is the spread's not very high. I think it's 8%. But there's no risk to it. They do it over and over again. So the revenue growth at Finger is massive. It's just massive. That's one of the things Finger does. The other thing Finger does is they bundle up text messages basically and media bundles. So your text messages or videos sent by media by phone. They can bundle those to companies, marketeers, at a discount. Again, they're able to buy these blocks from the government, basically, China Telecom, at a discount, and they make money on that, and it's huge and growing. The third thing they do is related to the fourth, but it's big data, and that's coming to the United States, by the way. But with people in China using the phone for everything, they don't use cash anymore to buy. They have their phone. Apparently there's some specific privacy limitations, but as a group they can monitor how everyone's driving on the highway. Do they stop off for a beer? Do they stop at the mall on the way home? I don't know. I can't make up the scenarios. Do people that take the metro use the sidewalks when they're walking home, or do they take the risk of crossing traffic on busy highways? I don't know. I'm making it up. But that's big data, and people pay for the big data. And that's a huge and growing, they call it Sapientus or something, some weird name. But they have this division, and that is the golden future for profits in Finger. And it's just huge. Remember SNOW when it went public, big data? That is big data on 1.5 billion people. And they're expanding their footprint outside of China. But why do you have to? 1.5 billion users is amazing. And then anyway, finally, they are in the insurance business, Munich Re, Pacific Life, and that's tied to the big data. But it's also tied to warranties on phones that they're selling. When you buy a phone, you get a warranty. You get payment systems as well. I don't know how that fits in my little scenario, but everything phone related, they're in. They also, speaking of that, are the sort of gateway to Tmall and some of these online shopping centers in China. So they get a piece of it. It's like a toll booth. Finger has their fingers in 1.5 billion wallets and mobile phone revenue streams in China. It's huge. It's huge. And the future is bright. And they finally have broken through that point where they have enough money that they can buy the discounted minutes, buy the discounted packets of SMS and MMS, the text messages and the media messages, to really grow revenue rapidly and big league. Not Big Lee, Big League. So Finger is just a massive story, and I think it could be the next Chinese stock. And yes, I think it goes to the same levels as GTII. And somebody asked me, what do I think realistically about GTII? I don't know what you mean about that. Realistically, Kurt Kramer has been criming for 2.5 years, and Alpine and John Hurry. So realistically, I think the criminals are going to continue to crime. However, the company's on your side. They've been offered money from the shorts. They're not taking it. They're doing every single thing they can to do Gary Gensler's job for him. And eventually one of these things is going to trigger buy-ins in GTII. So realistically, I think GTII has a massive squeeze ahead of it, but I do not have a crystal ball. Maybe they can do Bazumba, but I don't think that Bazuma works in every saloon in the Wild West. I think Doc Holliday and John Wayne show up at a lot of saloons. So I think those were the two questions I was asked. Hey, Robert Kepke. You were president of a broker-dealer, Robert Kepke? Wow. Wow. Well, it's funny, Robert, you know this, but so many people in the business, our business, I come from the same roots as you. And briefly, I was going to be CEO of a company, but, there's a lot of palace intrigue. So, maybe there's some parallels in our experiences, but so many people in Wall Street have no idea of what's going on with the criminals, and I have to give all credit to Ham for educating. I had awareness, and I think, although he's probably too polite to tell me when I was a complete idiot, but I had awareness of a lot of this stuff going on because of the nature of my business. I did a lot of syndicate. When I was overseas, I raised money for, smaller companies, public companies. I did a lot of IPOs. So I knew a lot of this was going on, but I had no idea the depth of it. And that's what Ham educated me. But a lot of my business also was in areas that gave me an understanding of what the criminals do. And I did that in high volume, such that my investors started asking for, my clients started asking for 3 cents a share, and then they went down to a penny a share. And of course, I wanted to keep the volume, but my boss said, Billy, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to fire your clients. So he fired all of my book. And he said, your client has too sharp a pencil. In other words, someday he's going to have an error, and you're not making enough money to ever pay it back. So anyway, but my point is, I do have a lot of experience with aspects of what these criminals are doing. I could never get away with all that. But yeah, I gotta walk luggy. Tell me, 22 J-Dog, Mega's bigger than HKD? Marbella, Spain. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Sí. Exacto. Claro. I'm trying to do all the words Well, tell me about it, if you can, 22 J-Dog, about Mego. Because there was such huge volume that, one interpretation is they got it all cleaned up. But to me, there's another interpretation, that the problem is so big they didn't get it cleaned up. So, I know. So you don't know, 22 J-Dog, how to put it in one sentence. I'm really intrigued by Mego, but I don't have the knowledge you do on it. But I am intrigued. So Jenny might be right. Maybe I should call it shortly. It's 7:03. I'll go a little longer. I'm sorry I got off on tangents. That's just a sign of being tired, maybe. But I was also I like the questions about the dollar and the SWIFT system and the future. I think it's a shame that you don't share your love with me. Ain't it a shame that you won't share your love with me? I'll just quickly say on that we should be able to negotiate with the rest of the world to have a more fair financial system and currency system. But anyway, we'll get there. VO Warrior. Joe, do you know what I mean, Ju? Do you know what I mean? I have a friend from Spain. She always says, "Do you know?" And I always say, "Do you know what I mean, Ju?" It's amazing. She can speak English, Spanish, German. She's learning Chinese and Italian. And I can barely speak English. What is it? That is, in my opinion, you're talking about MEGL. But what's the key hook about? It's just bigger than HKD? All right, I'll try to find something on it. I trust your judgment, 22J Dog, because there wasn't very much of a climactic move in MEGL, so you might be right. All right, what I've learned everything from you and him. I've lost millions due to naked shorts and toxic loans. Well, Robert, over 100 million, I see, yeah. Robert, I'd hate to tell you how many millions I've lost, and I never understood it. The aha moment I had was they did it to every stock. I used to think it was isolated maybe to one stock or one bad investment bank, but they did it to everything. That's when, and part of me gets pissed off about it, because I've personally lost millions of dollars. And then my clients, and then answering to this. And that doesn't get into the jobs lost, the opportunities lost, the dreams lost, the people that dedicated their whole lives to a transformational company or transformational technology. It's heart crushing. Oh, you got your Series 7 and 86. Wow. Mega went to 249? Oh, back when? Yeah, I looked on that chart. Yeah, Jenny, I saw that. 24 and 87, Robert. I'm so sorry. 20 and all right, 22 J Dog. I'm not by any means an expert, but just from what I'm seeing with the heavy shorting, yeah, 20. I think your instincts are right. Well, and Robert, I was talking about it with Ham, and I've missed several phone calls from him today because I got caught on a board call. But the one advantage I think I have, and maybe you're getting it too, is just perspective. I understand and accept just how rapacious, machine-like these criminals are. Oh, it was a Teddy Zane pumping up. Well, Jenny, they shorted it back down, which is how they make their money back. But they're still short. So All right, I'll just go until 7:15. And then, Lucky, we'll go on a big walk, okay? We'll go on a big walk. He's such a good boy. Each of you should have a boy as good as... Well, Robert, the dollar, I just can't figure it out why everyone's talking about it, because normally when they get the sheeple, and I include myself in the sheeple, zigging, they zag, you know? And Goldman is notorious for talking its own book. I might be guilty of believing in my own spit, but Goldman talks its own book. It's what they do. Well, 54% of, I think that number is the currency reserves in the world for the dollar, but I don't know what it is. Oh, both are the same underwriter. Megal short volume is 54%. Wow. Wow. Lots of FTDs. I'm not getting any flowers. There's lucky boy, Samantha. Where are you? Gotta really check out Megal. Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, Jenny works very hard. That's amazing. I know enough Spanish to say sí. Um, 17-year-old Cocker Spaniel called Abby. Aw, Abby. Abby. That's a good dog. Abby is a good dog, right? Right. No more shares to borrow. That's amazing. That might run then. I can't be in them all, but that might run. I'm gonna guess that Finger's gonna run, and I still think GTII has a huge move to the upside in it. Cocker Spaniel. Well, VO Warrior, in her book, Naked, Short, and Greedy, or whatever it was, Naked, Greedy, and Short, Dr. Susan Trimblath points out that the system is set up so they can settle a fail to deliver with a fail to deliver, and it's just an endless cycle of crime. Yeah, we're close, Doug. Thank you. Bye, MKC. Go to the White House. Yeah, it's a difficult week. I would agree with you. I hate the stock going down, and I wish I had waited 1 week to say that it's a good time to buy, but I still stand by it. I mean, it's hard to get the exact bottom, but I think when GTII turns, it's going to turn dramatically. The Series 24, wow. I had back then we had to get our real estate license, which I didn't do any real estate, and insurance. I had my commodities license. Is that the 54? I can't remember. And then the Series 7. Yep. Anyway, all right. 2 more minutes, and then you won't have me to kick around anymore. I think next week will be better. And Oriental rugs. I have never seen a better time. Well, Robert, I'd love it. I should give you my details. I know, Jenny, I have 2 minutes. Nag, nag, nag. Nag, nag, nag. You know, tomorrow's the Kentucky Derby, and I used to go. I kind of wish I were there. Kind of wish I were there. I kind of wish I were there. Oh, tomorrow's the coronation, Lordy. Glad I'm not going to that. That sounds good. Steak and asparagus. Nag, nag, nag. I can't find it, but I'll play it for you some point. Yeah, anyway, everybody, it's 7:15, so enjoy your dinners, enjoy your friends and family. And I'm sorry this week was so difficult, and I feel like I jumped the gun on my call by at least a week, but I'm every bit as confident in GTII as I was. It feels horrible, I know, but we'll get them. And I think on Finger, we have a big week ahead. See what happens when I take the wife. All right, so Jenny said I have to go. So anyway, peace, love, and happiness, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers.